What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into another edition of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast. It's episode 285 of the official Lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB, it's Deej. We got a lot to dive into on this episode, plus we have a guest on this week's episode. We are working hand in hand with the PLL beat writers for the remainder of the season, pretty much. We are going to be having them on as guests, and this week we kick things off with Archers beat writer Zach Carey. Shout out to the boy, go Birds, and some awesome conversations about the Archers as a whole, some stories about the team from his point of view. It was a great interview, so definitely don't miss out on that. Stick around for that portion of the episode, if anything. We're going to talk about the All-Star Game. We're going to talk about Dallas coming up this weekend. And then we've got some takes on the NLL because some NLL happenings have been happening. And we would just like it to be a little bit more clear for the people. So we'll talk about everything going on in the NLL as NLL Free Agency opens up on August 1st. But before we get into it all, make sure you guys are following us on the socials. That includes Twitter. We will not be calling it by the singular digit letter, alpha, numeric, whatever Elon wants to do. It's Twitter, okay? It's just like, people trying to change up branding for everything. It's Twitter. It will always be Twitter in this house. The Bluebird is not dead to us, and we don't steal things from people by just offering them merch and a tour of our studio. Did you see that?
No.
So apparently there was a person on Twitter who'd been on Twitter since like 2008 who their handle was just X, because back in 2008 you could have less than 3 letters for your handle. Apparently Twitter took the handle without offering any monetization. They offered merch and a tour of their office. They declined, and then they just took the handle.
Hypothetically, couldn't you just walk in there and hold the place hostage until they give you your username back?
Well, the hilarious part is Microsoft owns the
copyrights to X,
X in a certain faction, and then Meta owns the copyright to X for social media marketing and usage. So who knows how long it's going to be staying. And then the logo that they used is just a $30 font that you can purchase online from Font Me.
That's sick.
Morons.
That's sick.
He's the stupidest, smartest, air quotes for people just listening, person on the planet.
He's got money.
Yeah, that's all he's got. Did you see he tried to make PayPal X back in the day, and then PayPal employees just that. Held a full-on mutiny and got him fired.
I heard
as they
about
should.
That.
But yeah, follow us Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok at OTBLaxPod. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you decide to consume your podcast from. It does go a long way for helping this show continue to grow, helps more people find OTB, helps more people find Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole. So keep subscribing on audio. It does go a long way, and we're working on some fun stuff to get out to the people. So go subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel where Deej, we hit partial monetization. We hit the partial. We got the 3K watch hours. We got the 500 plus subscribers.
That's what's up, but
The live streams will be cooking
We got a more
when we're ready to go live. But we do have more pressing issues. We need you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show, every show on our network, live streams like the ever so popular OTB cast. You get clips, interviews, all that good stuff. It goes on our YouTube channel. We're winding down the month of July, Deej. It went by in the blink of an eye. I am fully convinced, and this is a topic for another day, that July is the quickest month ever. But we're at 518 subscribers. Hashtag DJ1K is September 4th. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers before September 4th. Otherwise, DJ is leaving from Gillette Stadium on a one-way trip to Alaska. Doesn't even get to pack up his room.
I just got to hope it gets sent to me.
It's tough.
Y'all really going to make me start over literally halfway across the globe?
Lee Dillon said he's got some mittens for you.
Anybody else got some? Gonna need more than one pair. I'm 124, so I'm slightly irresponsible. And 2, it's cold.
It's cold. It's tough, man. I'm gonna miss you. It's gonna be weird picking you. It's gonna be weird picking you up from Alaskan Airline arrival posts.
Hey, it's a lot more chill at that arrival post than the rest. So
yeah, because it's cold.
That and
it's chill.
There. Nobody's there either.
Go subscribe for the love of Christ. Go subscribe. YouTube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia and get your merch. phiapparel.co. DJ, I think they ship to Alaska. They ship to the boy Mitch Jones in Vancouver, so I'm pretty sure they'll ship to Alaska. It's a little bit closer, and it's still in the United States. Go to phiapparel.co if you want to stand out in the crowd, whether you're going to a PLL weekend, going to your favorite NLL team this upcoming season, or you're just hanging out with the fellas, hanging out with the ladies, and you want to look styling in your OTB merch, whether it's a shirt, hoodie. Go to phiapparel.co and use code underground and you get 10% off any and all merch orders. That's how they know you're coming from us. And you can look like the best of the best rocking your OTB merch. Plus, when you get it, tag us, tweet at us, post it on TikTok, whatever it may be. We'll share it everywhere that you post it. phiapparel.co, code underground, 10% off any and all merch orders. Deej, what's poppin', brother? Other than the fact that as I've been sitting here and as I was sitting when we were doing our interview with Zach, I hate calling it an interview. It's more of a conversation with Zach. I want to expedite a ring light to you in your office. It just seems so gloomy.
I know. It's like, it's weird.
You look like you're in in-school suspension.
I mean, this would be the coolest in-school suspension room ever. It's got a microphone, all kind of TVs, all kind of monitors and lacrosse stuff in here. I'd hang out in here all the time for
you have a mic instead of a desk to drop a beat on. You just got a mic to absolutely spit.
No, that would be awesome. But nah, I mean, yeah, I just need to go ahead and buy one and set it up in here. This is the office for the meantime. This is like my actual like office at work. So like I can have a ring light in here whenever I want. That's not the concern. But this is the pod office for a while. So I should get that together.
Until you get to Alaska.
I want to look half decent. I'm definitely gonna need a ring light out there, especially come winter time.
Yeah, you just use the northern lights.
Summer, winter. Is that I think that's
6 months of the year, pretty much. But I think pure darkness.
Yeah, but I think it's really in like the summertime when it goes dark like that. Actually,
I forget.
I can't remember. Either way, just subscribe so I don't have to go out there and this is a problem. But I mean, I'm living. We got fall/summer tryouts for ball Friday, tomorrow, or I guess today when most of you would be listening to this. My apologies. Yeah, so I'm excited for that, and a couple of my high school boys have gotten out to our high school practices, so we're still trending toward trying to repeat as coach of the year. Got to
He's the
defend that
coach
title.
of the year.
Got to defend that title.
Big facts. We got a lot to dive into. We're going to do a quick recap of the PLL All-Star Weekend. Shout out to the boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. 121 himself, Jared Neumann, breaks the record that he held not once but twice, because in the prelim round, the opening round of the fastest shot, he went 119. But he finally cracks 120 and goes 121, hits the deck, and just an epic shot. Him and Blaze tumbling on the ground together was the most adorable thing ever. And then in the post-game press conference, Jared says, oh yeah, I didn't shoot with that stick until 11 a.m. because Blaze let everybody know that Jared forgot to pack his sticks.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. That happened to one of my kids this week. He came down, he warmed up, got all dressed, did his speed and conditioning, like all that stuff. And then we get ready to warm up sticks and shoot and stuff. He goes, I don't have my stick. I was like, dude, what? He's like, yeah, dude, I have everything but my stick. Like, I don't know how people walk out without their stick. Like, are we not doing the pat down, look through the bag to make sure we have everything?
Not
like
doing
these
that
are
out loud phone, wallet, keys, stick.
like, bro, I am phone, keys, wallet, pen, bag. Okay, here's my helmet, my cleats, I just run through the whole thing and my stick.
We're just built different.
Like, and guess what? I still forget things.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand. I just don't forget the most important of things. So like,
outside of your laptop in 2021.
They didn't know that. They didn't need to know that.
Now
that
you know.
That was private information. Oh. I don't even know what to do now.
Not
You for
fighting
real?
the air.
Yes. I don't even know what to do now, man. They thought I was a halfway, competent and responsible individual. And here you are throwing out everything they need to not know. Shout out Jared, man. You know what? Come shoot 121 at me right now.
Shout out to Jared. Shout out to Logan Wisnauskas dethroning Marcus Holman in the accuracy competition. Shout out to Blaze finally getting the goalie skills competition. And shout out to the Slim Reaper. Xander Dixon wins the freestyle. When it comes to the skills contests, I think the goalie challenge change this year was very good. I thought it made it more fun and more enticing. I thought the fast shot was still great. I don't think they needed to make the change to the accuracy competition that they made. It felt very just forced change. And then the freestyle contest, I don't know about you. I'm already tired of it.
Yeah, but it's not for us.
Sure.
If that makes the most sense ever. It's for kids. You got kids entertained, so whatever, do it. I don't pay much attention to it.
Even from that aspect, it was the least entertaining of the 4 skills competitions.
Are you a kid?
I'm speaking for everybody. I think you ask a group of 100 kids, I think you would say it was the least entertaining. And that's no knock to the guys that participated. I think it's just the way that it's formatted. And I said on Twitter, because our boy Michael Harrison put out concepts for things that he would like to see in the All-Star skills contest moving forward. I said I think the only way some of these get better is if it's what we've been saying for years, is that it's a full All-Star weekend, and then you have a night designated for the skills contest, because I do feel I think all 4 of them felt very rushed and it was just like done in the blink of an eye because of the time constraints that they had. So I think that's also part of like where you lose some people, is that it's just so quick and it's so like out of sight, out of mind, that it's just like, okay, that happened, cool. I think once we get to that point, the skills competition will get better.
I just don't. I agree with some of the other skills comps, not necessarily freestyle. There's just nothing to do. Like, it doesn't work like a dunk contest, and that's like what it's like basically compared to, and it just doesn't give the same effect. There isn't enough like theatrics you can do like in the midst of shooting to give it that freestyle feel that people are looking for. And I think that's the real problem with the freestyle competition, more so than like timing or anything. Maybe they just scrap it all together. I really like.
I wouldn't hate that. I also think like of the 4 guys that competed, Nakai displayed the most freestyle skill. It was actual like lacrosse moves that he was using. Sure, he didn't hit the shot, so that's why he didn't advance. But I think if he hits that, he probably wins. Everything else was so prop heavy or like other player involvement heavy that I was like, this isn't even like.
But that's what I mean. There isn't enough stick skill stuff you can do to make it like worth a freestyle competition. You have to do all the other theatrics, and even those, there really isn't like a lot to supplement to make it a quality competition. Not saying that these guys aren't creative, it's just that side of the game looks better in a game when you're just playing and then all of a sudden you pull out a one-hand BTB that goes in. Like, people are going to go nuts. You do that in a freestyle competition, they're like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't give the same effect that a 360 between the legs dunk does in the NBA. You can see that in a regular game, but when somebody does it in the dunk contest, people still go crazy. Like, that's kind of like what I imagine people are looking for in the freestyle competition. It's just like never really going to give that, and that sucks. And it sucks for people who are looking for that, and then it sucks for the PLL because like I feel like they don't really know what to do with the freestyle competition, but they need to have something that's like high energy and fun and like showcases like a goal scoring ability.
The one thing I saw was like how the NBA has like I forget what they call it, but like the guys have to like do like the cone drill and like all that kind of stuff, and
skills
MLS does it now too.
It's literally a skills competition.
I would like to see that put in.
But what is it? What would you do?
Sure, like it has to get brainstormed and everything, but
stuff
like similar to that, I think would be more visually entertaining.
It like, once again, it doesn't give the same. Like, somebody split dodging between a bunch of cones isn't the same as someone crossing over on a bunch of cones. Somebody throwing a lacrosse pass at a target isn't the same as it hitting the tire and bouncing out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're like chasing the. I think we need to leave. The only competition that might need to change again is maybe accuracy challenge. I saw the boy Scotty Royster put up the NFL accuracy challenge, and he said this but lacrosse, and I was like, yo, that's a great idea. They have the moving targets. There's some that are farther, some that are closer, and you just lob balls at them, and then you get points for hitting them. I think that is probably the only thing that can change besides dropping the freestyle competition or going to a full weekend and expanding the freestyle competition to be something that creates that excitement that they're looking for.
I was also kind of bummed. I forget if they didn't do this last year, but we didn't have like the fastest player.
They did it last year.
We didn't have that this year.
But also, like, I did. It doesn't give the same as the fastest skater.
Yeah.
I don't.
It was fun last year because Jack won.
Yeah, but I guess like my thing is like if I want to see people race, I'd watch track.
but I wouldn't watch track because I don't have any emotional attachment to track athletes outside of Eagles wide receiver Devin Allen, who's the fastest human.
Yeah, but it's just like that doesn't do anything. I think that's why they dropped it. Like, how many people were actually like interested in seeing who the fastest in the league was? And are they truly the fastest? Because they're only picking 5 people. So is there somebody out there that's actually faster and they're just not participating? Like,
Or you just do, because I'm looking at what the skills challenge was this year, because it was different this year, I think, right? Because it was teams for the NBA.
No, it's the same skills challenge. They just changed it to team. Like, there's just the way they do it now is a little like the way they do the teams is differently. For a little while, there was like individual, and then they did like teams based off of like East and West or something like that. And now they're doing like some world teams, some like actual teams. It's like really weird.
Team relay, which was you had to hit a 35-foot outlet pass, dribble through 3 moving pylons, and attempt 3 different shots for the NBA.
Yeah.
And then the next one was the moving targets thing. That was timed. And then there had to have been something else, I think. But yeah, like, it's not a thing that we have an answer for, but I think workshopping like different things would make stuff more interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know.
And also giving us like what they did this year for the format, which I liked, of like young versus old. We've talked about it too. Like when you have a full weekend, having a USA versus Worlds, Rising Stars, you know, like the NBA does with like first year versus second year, stuff like that. I think that would add more just like fun and
I brought up the idea of doing full weekend. So Friday, I know this might not happen for a while because it would cost the league some money, but like you put together a Haudenosaunee versus the world game for Friday. So pretty much anybody in the league who's not in the All-Star game, if you're Haudenosaunee, you play for that squad, and everybody else, you put together a team for the world. They play Friday. Saturday, you do your skills comp, and then Sunday you have your Rising Stars versus Veterans or whatever other kind of All-Star game you want to have.
Or even like doing like baseball does with the celebrity game. Because I've seen Paul tweet about that.
Yeah, but who plays in it then, right?
Right. It's finding the people that are around and available. But Paul rattled off a list of like 20 people when he tweeted about it. So,
well, a lot of them were probably former players.
No.
I assume.
He had like Dave Grohl on there, or Schlavsky. Let me see if I can find that list. Because I would even like.
My thing is, I don't know. I don't know how
softball game is like.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how
it's just fun to like see those people around, and I think it's just like good for
right.
Like, league growth.
I don't know how it translates. Because like anybody can pick up a bat and swing it and like have a half decent game. You know what I'm saying? And like same thing with basketball. You can just pick it up and throw it. Like flag football. Like these are easy games to do. Like celebrity. Like are people gonna want to come and watch celebrities literally just basically slap dick around because they don't know how to play lacrosse?
So he tweeted this when Pac-Man was in Columbus. And then he said, who else? Method Man, Wayne Gretzky. That would be fucking hilarious. Wayne Gretzky. I don't know.
I mean, Wayne and Method Man know how to play. Dan probably knows how to play.
Steve Nash, Bill Belichick.
Steve knows how to play. Bill knows how to play.
Dave Grohl, Steve Carell, Mick Foley, and Geraldo Rivera.
And that's 9 people.
And then Orlovsky and Matt Hasselbeck got commented. Joe Keegan said Luke Kuechly.
I think Kuechly knows how to play already.
Jordan Johnson tweeted a photo of 2 Chainz when he was at a Georgia Swarm game holding the stick.
We do not want. Oh, Actually, James could probably play no Kizzy. He was a D1 basketball player, so I mean,
Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson.
that's better.
I'm
gonna act like you ain't say that name before that one.
Come on, you're telling me it wouldn't be funny to watch Tom Brady out there? Somebody said Quavo.
I'd be more down to watch Quavo than Tom Brady. Tom Brady has already ruined football for me. Leave him away from my sport.
Someone said Bill Simmons.
Bet.
Drew Brees.
Me? Question mark. Am I considered a celebrity at this point?
John Tavares.
I mean, he knows how to play.
Somebody said homie from Righteous Gemstones. I mean,
get that actor.
You get Chris Hogan out there.
Let's get that actor from Teen Wolf. And the New Age Carlton.
You get Chris Hogan out there. You probably get a couple retired guys.
Me, Scotty, and Diggs. We'll hop back out. We're not all the way out of retirement yet. We're playing men's league.
Well, I was saying like guys who like played in the PLL. Like you probably get like Kyle Harrison to come play.
I know, man. I'm just trying to pander and get me in on the other celebrity.
Bro, I was trying
game.
to pander to the timeline, and
Stop blocking me.
At least Mike liked the tweet. Get us at the scores table.
Just stop blocking me, man. I'm trying to get the
nice
celebrity
like
game. You're steady throwing out other names. Like, no, this is about me. This is about me. Don't you understand that if I'm in the Celebrity All-Star Game, it automatically gets you creds? You should want me there.
As Mike Rabel said, I always have creds with the PLL.
Oh, that's not the point. Not the point. You get special creds. You get the.
Oh, you know who's totally playing in the Celebrity All-Star Game though? It makes too much sense to not have him play, even though he's a coach right now. John Grant Jr. is playing in the Celebrity All-Star Game.
I was gonna say Donald Trump.
God damn.
And
because a very fun sport, DJ.
I'd suit up with DT, bro. Are you kidding me?
I can't stand you.
I'd suit up with DT. That'd be sick. I'd make sure I'd act like a caddy out there. Maybe he'd tip me.
Be hacking up a lung by like 2 minutes into the game.
Good shot there, sir. Here you go, DJ. $100.
I can't inhale anymore. Somebody bring me my Coke. Diet preferably. Not Hunter Biden stuff.
I'm just saying that would be fantastic. I'd be here for it. And I mean, you would get the special like player creds that time because I mean I'm a player, so I'm not gonna not let you get the player creds.
Sound off in the comment section who you want in the Celebrity PLL hypothetical All-Star Game.
And if it's not me, I'm tracing your IP to your doorstep.
Or just use a VPN.
You always blocking me, yo.
Well, that was just a callback to an off-the-record conversation. I do have to say, though, the game itself, very entertaining. It was one of the more entertaining overall All-Star games that I can remember in a long, long time. Much better than last year, obviously. And I think it was just because they let the guys play and there were no, like, quirky rule changes. So keep that moving forward. I think that is a key to the success and the just, like, entertainment value of an All-Star game is just don't try to do too much. So yeah, shout out to the All-Stars, shout out to the vets, shout out to the rising stars. And
yeah, I thought the game was great. I just wish the only thing I would have liked is like, can we get like let's do something crazy one year where it's like you get regular points in the first quarter, but double in the second, triple in the third, quadruple in the fourth, and just like let the score be something outrageous. Like then 2-point goals are worth 8. Like, yes. Let somebody rip off an 8-pointer. Like, please.
That's the last thing we need, just simply because of the people online.
Oh my God, what's an 8-pointer? This is not real lacrosse. Bring the no shot clock back. Let them just do their
No,
thing.
you know what we need once we get to a full All-Star weekend? The concept that we brought up, whether it's USA versus World or Haudenosaunee versus like the rest of the world, or year 2 versus year 1, that format should be 6s.
Here you go. You are just trying to you are the one out here trying to force 6s down everybody's throat. I just want to let you know that. It is you,
am I wrong?
Kyle Bennett.
Am I wrong?
Yes. Leave the game alone. Let 6s exist during the championship series. Yes. And let it exist during the World Games. Let it exist during the World Games. Let it exist during probably the Olympics. Leave stuff alone, man.
This fucking guy.
I don't care. I'm talking so hard. I don't care.
Sit your ass down.
You know I don't care. To me, it wouldn't matter whether it's 10v10 or 6v6. The game's going to be exciting both ways. People are going to enjoy it. It's their favorite players in the PLL. They could care less how they're seeing them.
Let's get into Dallas. It's brought to you by our friends over at Tomahawk Shades. Best small batch eyewear in the game. DJ, I don't know if I told you, but Tomahawk Shades, they have an app now. Tomahawk Shades has an official app that you can download, and when you download the app, just for downloading it, once you open it, you can claim a free pair of sunglasses. Yep, it's that simple. Download the Tomahawk Shades app, claim your free pair of sunnies, and you can just peruse the app and look at all the sunglasses, blue light glasses, prescription lenses, and when you go to checkout, use promo code USP for 25% off at checkout on any order. It does not work on the free glasses, obviously.
So
but
you still gotta pay for that shipping.
Yeah, just gotta. But I'm gonna let everybody in on a little secret. I got a pair of $80 sunglasses for $11.98.
That's tough because you said free.
Hey, all you gotta do is pay for the shipping.
Man, they supposed to let that little 25% off handle that. That's crazy.
That's still an unbelievable deal.
Facts.
So support a small business that's been supporting us since the Pandy Wandy kicked off at tomahawkshades.com. Download the app and use promo code USP on any orders for 25% off your sunnies, your blue lights, and your prescription lenses. Dallas this weekend, Deej. It's a Saturday-Sunday extravaganza. First time in a while it feels like it's been that way. I could be wrong, but it just feels like we've had a lot of Friday-Saturday this year so far. But Saturday-Sunday, we get Atlas and Chrome to kick things off at 6 p.m. on Saturday, followed by Cannons Redwoods at 8:30. And then on Sunday on ABC, 3 p.m., prime time on a Sunday, Water Dogs Archers for first place. And then we get Whips Chaos to round out the weekend. A lot of fun matchups. Atlas Chrome pretty much determines the destiny of those teams if they make the playoffs or not. Redwoods Cannons has always been fun in the two matchups that those two teams have had in Cannons PLL history. Water Dogs Archers, if they wear the correct uniforms, is the best jersey matchup aesthetically, to my eyes at least, with those purples and those oranges just running back and forth. I'm stoked for that game. Those are the two most fun teams to watch in the league right now outside of our Chaos boys. And then Chaos
that was the most
Whips.
seductive comment I've ever heard about the PLL.
What do you mean?
Those oranges and purples running up and down the field. It's just so
Bonk.
Yeah, you. You.
Getting aroused by Grimace and the chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Screaming.
Oh, man.
That you call Grant a chicken nugget.
Shout out to the Short Kings. Ah, shit, that's Burger King. Have it your way. No free ads.
None.
What are you looking forward to this weekend down in Dallas?
Wow. This one's tough. This might turn out to be the best weekend of the summer. Big question mark. We get a revitalized Cannon squad that is cruising right now against a Redwoods team who has not lost a game after getting blown out in the PLL ever. They are tied for like the I don't know, they're in the bottom like 5, like 3 times for the worst outputs in PLL. But every single time after that,
they have the 3 worst.
Well, yeah, but one of them's tied with like Chrome or whatever because they dropped a 3-piece one time.
They lost.
So technically, like they're
then they lost like 12-3 and then 10-3.
Yeah, and then Chrome's got a 3-piece, so they're technically like that 4. That 4. I think Chrome lost to who'd they lose? It might have been Archers too, but they only dropped 3 in a game last year. In that time, because I remember everybody making like a big deal about like it being like one of the lowest scoring games of the season. And they were wondering if it was the lowest ever. And then that's when everything got brought back up that the Woods lost 18-4 or 17-3 or whatever.
I'm looking that up right now as you continue.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Chrome's got one. But either way, like anytime they get blown out and they drop an absolute PLL worst in goals, they go out and play very well the following weeks. They have yet to lose a game after getting blown out, and they may lose some of the subsequent, but they're normally losing by 1 or 2 and playing a lot better ball than they have been playing. So you're looking at 2 teams who are bound to have a really good game clashing together with really nothing to lose. Both these teams are in much better spots than they were last year. Both these teams are possibly, like as of right now, are in the playoffs, in good positions in the playoffs, just have to smooth some things out with their roster so that they're playing their best lacrosse.
It was the playoffs that Chrome scored 3 against Chaos.
I mean, that's still
no. That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't remember. It was the playoffs last year.
But yeah, so they got 4 out of the 5 worst offensive outputs in the PLL, and they've gone out and played well in all of the following games. So I wouldn't expect this game to be any different. The only problem is they're running into a very hot team in the Cannons, so that'll be fun to watch. But then you troll over to 2 teams who are in very opposite positions than what they were last year in Chrome and Atlas, who were both playing very well last year, looking like some of the best ball they had played ever in their existence as programs. And we're looking to follow that same trend this year. They're both kind of not playing well at all. And it's not due to their face-off guys. It's not due to their goalies. It's due to, I really don't know. I like that. That's the thing. Like, it's not like you can pinpoint any part of either of these teams that isn't working. I mean, we can look at Chrome for the last couple games. They've been dealing with some defensive worries and changes down there because of injuries and timeout with paternity and stuff. And maybe that's why they're not where they should be, because that has kind of been a 2 or 3 game thing now, which can really affect, especially if we look at that first game back from Worlds and they didn't have, I don't think, anyone on their starting D except maybe Mike Manley. And I don't even think Manley played. Manley was the only one. You know, they didn't have Jesse, they didn't have JT, and they lost some other guys too because they were just banged up. So it's like, let's not act like Chrome is not in a position to do well, but they're just, I don't know. I've
said it about Chrome all year. Like, their offense being the revolving door it's been, there's just been a lack of consistency compared to last year, where it just felt like their offense was just a high-flying machine because they knew who was in the offense, they knew who was playing. And then on top of that, which, you know, the biggest news I think going into this weekend is Connor Farrell's not on the roster whatsoever. This after being an all-star, he's facing off at a career high, but he's also turning the ball over at it's already a career high through 5 games. I think that's part of it too. And I liken this 32-second shot clock to the pitch clock in baseball, where there's pitchers throughout baseball, and I'm experiencing it as a Phillies fan, where there's pitchers who are still struggling to get acclimated with their timing with the pitch clock because it is so sped up compared to what they're used to, with just there not being anything. Where the 32-second clock, there's guys who are still trying to adjust their game and trying to, maneuver the face-off and everything. And we've seen it especially with Connor Farrell, where 9 times out of 10, what's Connor Farrell doing when he wins a face-off? He's kicking it backwards. And when you do that, you're kind of killing your forward momentum of moving the ball forward to go and score off the face. But
to me, that's not
on the other portions of things, he's turning it over.
I say, to me, that's not his fault. Teams are preventing to stop him from moving forward. He had, that's even, you could see that with a regular Fogo. It might not even be like a pull or anything, and teams just force you back because they're tired of you winning it forward. Your team has to be able to clear the ball and do something. Also, when he is winning it forward, his attackmen aren't moving to come help him. His middies are getting locked off, and they're asking Connor Farrell, a guy who picked up lacrosse in college, to handle all by himself on an island. That's not going to work. We're not going to act like the coaches aren't putting him in a position to be successful, because they're not. But at the same time, like I said pre-pod, is he doing well at his job? Yeah, he's doing exceptional at his job, and he's top 3 in the league at his job. Not only in percentage, but also in wins and in ground balls. He's doing very well. But when he's turning it over at an all-time high, I can't put you on the field. As a coach, the whole point of the game is to get possession, keep it, and score. He's getting possession, but he's not keeping it, and he's not helping our attackmen get it and go score. So why am I going to continue to put him in the game? That doesn't seem smart to me, unless I'm going to make a change to help him out to where it's easier for him to do his job and get it to our attack so they can go and score. It looks like they opted to just take him out and take another route. Maybe they're just trying something out and he'll be back in next week. But I think a lot of people are overreacting in this standpoint. Sure, he's playing well at his position, but if he's turning the ball over, he's turning the ball over. Nobody is exempt from turnovers. I don't care who you are. Then that's just me thinking in a coach's brain. You're my best player or not. If you're consistently turning the ball over, I'm going to pull you out if you can't get it together. It's asinine to keep him in if he's not helping you win the game.
I think he'll be back in next week. And I think the other aspect of this that just gets hidden because we are in this era of, teams using the prevent approach. Connor has failed miserably against Trevor in his career. Connor has never been able to figure out Trevor at the stripe throughout the 5 years of the PLL. And I think that also, on top of Trevor, going in that up against prevent, has also won faceoffs, but teams not winning. I think it's just a culmination of a number of things that just happened to transpire 1 week after the All-Star break, where Connor Farrell was an All-Star. But I still think Connor is the one guy who's been in the league the longest at the faceoff, who's still trying to kind of acclimate himself and figure out what works best for him.
But that's my thing, is
I'm saying out of the faceoff with the 32-second clock.
Well, that's not his job. That's what I mean by that. That's not his job to figure out. It's his coach's job to figure out what's best for him. Right.
Well,
okay.
I'm saying I'm just saying from what he's being given right now, that's part. He's
that's
trying to figure that out, and it's resulting in turnovers.
Well, yeah, because he's not being given anything. That's why I say that isn't his fault at all. They literally just threw him out there and was like, do face off the way you've been doing face off. That's not going to work with the way things are set up now. It has to be in one of their practice. They have to sit and spend 20, 30 minutes. I know it sucks to take that much time out of your practice, but sometimes you have to do it. I still do it with stupid stuff like my clear. But if we don't clear the ball after a defensive stop, we're going to give up goals and never score the ball. Sometimes you have to slow it down and just go, hey, on the face-off, Connor's been doing a great job at getting us the ball, and he's able to carry for a little bit, but he's turning it over because we're not helping him at all. So this is what we're going to do. This attackman's going to drop here. You're going to slide here, and you're going to pop here. Boom. Now he has 3 options from his attackman. Our middies, one's going to circle back, one's going to push forward, and then he's going to decide where he's going to go from there. Our D are going to push here, here, and here, and our goalie's going to step out of the cage. Now he has a plethora of options to go to Everybody knows where everybody else is going to be, and then you can move forward from there. But right now, they're just playing free for all off the stripe and expecting to like advance forward when every team is like, okay, they're just leaving Connor on an island. Let's make sure we lock off everybody else, and then we'll let our pole or we'll let our superstar short stick D mid just eat away at Connor, turn it over, and now we got a whole 52 to do what we want. Like that's this.
I'm also like,
we can't blame Connor for a lack of coaching. That's all I'm saying.
I hope it didn't come off that I was like blaming Connor for people listening to. Like, I'm not saying
Oh,
it's his fault. Like, I'm not saying, oh, this is Connor Farrell's fault. He's not adjusting. Like, it's just that's what Connor is trying to adjust to because that's the scenario he finds himself in 9 times out of 10. And it feels like he is the only face-off guy that, outside of Trevor, who can stay on and score or stay on and drop back and play defense, you know, in the NLL like we've seen him do time and time again. Connor's the only face-off guy that I can like vividly see in my brain this season that is being forced to go backwards every single time.
I think you brought it up, but he's not being forced. I'll say that. It's safer for him. And
right.
It's a mental thing.
Forced.
It's a mental thing. Your special teams are mental, right? If you're a face-off or your goalie check out mentally, you're done. They're not going to do anything. They're very, very mental positions. So he mentally just tells himself, I'm just going to go back and move it to a D or a goalie and then get off the field so that I don't turn it over. And then they can figure that out, which is like a really bad mindset to go into. But like, he's got to have something to keep him going, to keep him doing well, or you're going to lose face-offs going forward, the other team going forward and scoring fast breaks. So it's like, it's a give and take. That's why like, I kind of like defended him there, air quotes for those just listening. I didn't want anybody listening to feel like, I don't want to say blaming, but like kind of like we were saying like Connor has to figure it out when in reality he's doing his job. He needs help from his teammates and his coaching staff. Mm-hmm. That's the part that needs to figure it out. But I mean, I don't even think he or the Chrome have the biggest worries in this matchup. It's more of Atlas. They have a serious problem over there. It's not like they're lacking in goal scoring. They're top 3 in goals or top 4. Top half of the league in goals, if I'm not mistaken. They have one of the better defenses. Maybe it was
Do they though?
What, for offense or defense?
Defense. Offensive production wise, they are tied with Whips for second most goals for, but they have given up the most goals this season.
But I don't know if that's really a defensive thing, in my opinion. Like, let's look at the level. No offense to him whatsoever, but let's look at the level Jack Kincannon's played at pre-injury. Pre-injury. That's what I want to bring up. Not even just this year, even last year, like when he came back a little bit. Like him post-injury to what he's been pre-injury has been drastic. And I think that's a big part of it. Like I mentioned, the mental case. Like the rest of this team is playing very well. And like, sure, you had to give your Poles and Maker and Adler a little time to warm up to the PLL, but they're here. They're warmed up. They're playing well. And I think that they do a very good job of keeping teams out of the middle and forcing teams to take shots from out far. But if Kincannon's not saving them, why does it matter? And I think them moving to Drake Porter may solve that a little bit. But I think, hey, their team has been playing well. They're scoring goals and they are creating some turnovers, not as many as other teams, and they're giving up some goals. But I think they just have a serious problem in not being able to close out games, and that's just a whole team thing. But I think Porter may be able to help with that in some regard. We haven't really seen him kind of step in and have a chance to play fully. So I'm hoping that they stick with him and they move forward with that. But that was my piece on Atlas. Is I think they're in a position to be playing very well, but I don't think Jack Kincannon is playing as well as they thought he would. And that's brought them down a lot. And it's discouraging. I say it's discouraging as a defender to play very, very good defense and force a shot that should be saved and it doesn't get saved. That really makes it hard to continue to play very well, because you almost get what's the point kind of attitude. I don't necessarily think the Atlas have that attitude. I think their defense does still play very well and very hard, but it's just not much they can do if the saves aren't being made.
They're scoring, but their shooting percentage is god awful.
Makes sense.
Can you guess what Atlas's shooting percentage is this year? When you factor in the guys that are on this team and the way that they're able to shoot.
As a whole? Like their team as a whole?
Like team shooting percentage.
Like 22.7 or something like that?
It's a little bit better than that. It's 28.5. But when you factor in that you have the Chris Grays, the Jeff Teets, Eric Law, Brian Costabile, and the rest of the, like Xander Dixon, like that's bad. You know, when you factor in like who is on the team. Can you also guess their 2-point shooting percentage? When they have guys that can shoot twos, like a Romar, like Brian Costabile.
14.8?
10%.
I was going to say 11. So, yeah, like, I'm not surprised. They haven't shot it well. I do know that.
And they're also turning the ball over at a god-awful clip. Through 5 games, they are close to averaging 20 turnovers a game. They have 92 turnovers in 5 games. There's your answer. From the offensive aspect and just the team,
but is
turning
it,
the ball over.
I say, but we got to look at like offense. Offense and turnovers are tricky. I guess just a team and turnovers are tricky because.
And cause turnovers is such a.
I just say because like
not to copy your word, cause turnovers are a tricky stat to like calculate, but from turnovers to cause turnover ratio is a big yikes.
Yeah, but like that's my thing is like turnovers are a lot easier to accumulate, and like turnovers are naturally just thrown on the offense. Like there's a good chance 50% or more of those turnovers are in the clear or off the faceoff, which technically is not an offensive problem whatsoever, in my opinion. Like the offense shouldn't be thrown that burden that they have 92 faceoffs if 46 of them are defense or 50 of them are defense / faceoff. 55 of those are defense / faceoff. Like that's the offense is still doing their job for the most part at taking care of the ball, but like that's still a high clip to be turning it over that much. But we can't just automatically throw 92 turnovers on the offense. Do I think the offense has turned it over a lot and doesn't have the flow that they had last year? Yes. I think that's a coaching thing, but they also have a new coach. So I think that's the bigger thing with Atlas is they have a bigger problem because they're going through like the identity piece and the turnover and like all of that. And that's a bigger issue to work through than what Chrome has. Chrome is just dealing with, inconsistency with roster and some bad play here and there, which I think those are a little bit easier to fix than to reset a culture and like find your way in a new offense, like that kind of thing. Because that's essentially what's going on with Atlas.
Their power play and penalty kill is almost identical to in a bad way.
Yeah.
They're 57.1% on the power play, and their penalty kill's 58.3.
That's actually pretty decent for power play or penalty kill. But
for power play, decent. Knowing the offense that they have, you'd expect it to be better.
Sure, but I mean, I'll take 6 out of 10. I'll take 6 out of 10.
So
every 6 penalties, I'll score out of 10. Sure. Look at how bad the Woods have done. They're not even getting penalties, and when they do get them, they're not scoring on them. So yeah, like Atlas is having trouble. Like Atlas's problem is the 6-on-6 and like the full game. But when they get a man up opportunity, they score on it. So it's like, what do you rather? That's why I say their problem is like culture and like locker room, just team identity. Like they're back at that stage because they're quite frankly resetting that with like you reset all of that with the new coach, whether anybody wants to argue that or not. As a coach, that is all dependent on the guy at top. he sets the culture, he sets the pace, he decides, what assistant coaches he's going to have, what kind of offense and defense they're going to run. Like, those are his decisions, or they at least have to be okayed by him. So you can't go from Rubiar to Pressler and think there's going to be no change. There's going to be change. And it, because they do things differently. That's just flat out. First off, Pressler doesn't say anyway after every sentence. But other than that,
You're saying the quiet part out loud.
I miss Rubiar sometimes, man.
I miss him a lot.
But
I gotta find a contact for him and get him on this show.
But yeah, that's the biggest thing is they're just going through another identity. I don't want to say crisis, but they have to redo everything basically with a new coach.
Game I'm excited for is the one on ABC. It's Water Dogs, Archers, two of the best in the league right now, and I think no better way to preview the Archers side of things than with the boy Zach Carey himself, the Archers beat writer. So sit tight. We're gonna kick it to our conversation with Zach Carey. All right, we have a guest for the first time in a long time on the Outside the Box podcast, and a kind of first-time type of guest. We are joined by Archers Lacrosse Club beat writer Zach Carey, the first of the PLL beat writers to join us on the Outside the Box podcast. Zach, stoked to have you on the show. Very excited that, Deej and I have talked about like waiting for the PLL to hire beat writers because we think it would just enhance the league so much. And then when Joe Keegan, our guy, announces that they're hiring beat writers, it's like, look at us, like we're getting that next step of media coverage. And you've done a phenomenal job so far covering the Archers, so we're excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been bucket list to get on the OTB podcast. It's been a lot of fun with the league, and it's easy to tell these stories. I mean, these guys deserve them. I mean, I was put up a Ryan Ambler story today, and he was just like, "Oh man, like thanks for the story." And I was like, "Dude, like this is what you guys deserve. Like this is what should be happening in this league." And the entire league's been so supportive. I mean, coaching staffs, players, like it's just been a surreal experience as a lacrosse guy who sort of like has watched these guys since the start of the league. And as like a fan, it's just been really, really fun to sort of dive into it. And I think that, it's only a good thing for the league, and it's fun to provide some more sort of deep dive coverage on these guys.
And we talked preseason, like right before week one, we said the Archers were going to be like our like league pass team this year. Like they're going to be the team you want to watch to like enjoy the most fun lacrosse because they're going to be so different from what they've been in years past. Obviously, the bunk bed boys move on. Will's with the whips, Marcus now with the cannons with his dad. They bring in Mac O'Keefe, changes up the entire dynamic of the way that they're approaching things offensively. But then also draft night rolls around. They draft two short stick D middies. The old guard of the short sticks is gone from this Archers team. Treasy comes in last year and is now kind of like the veteran presence amongst them and has really taken that leadership role. What has been the most fun aspect so far, here at the midway point as we get set going into Dallas week of covering this new look Archers team?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the energy, it's really awesome. And it's interesting because, I think I was hesitant coming into the season about how good this team would be just because you'd have to see it. Obviously, you have the Shrivers, the Amens, you have guys who are pillars and are going to produce no matter what. But I was curious to see how the pieces fit together. I think it's just been fun to see these young guys flash. Like that's been my favorite part of it. I mean, Mike Sisselberger, obviously, like Treasy, 100%. And just seeing some guys who maybe weren't, didn't get the best shot at sort of, we're seeing Connor Fields just explode. We're seeing Mac O'Keefe explode. Seeing these guys who weren't maybe utilized to the best of their ability just because it is such a stacked league on other clubs, to see them now sort of embrace that with this team this year has been really fun. And it's been cool to see sort of a new look Archers. I think Chris Bates has done a really great job. I was, admittedly hesitant about their draft initially. I thought, I was like, oh man, face off at 5, like with the depth of this face off class, I was curious if that was, sort of the draft value would line up. I didn't really have doubts about Mike Sesselberger, but I wasn't sure. It's just hard to translate to this league as a face off guy. It's hard to be elite right away, but he has been. And like, there's definitely tests to come, and we can talk about this weekend notably, and he still hasn't played Trevor, but these rookies have passed tests with flying colors, and then the young guys, or sort of the new pieces that are getting new roles, have really done well in them. Like, there really isn't a guy that you can pinpoint and be like, he's been below expectations for this club. And maybe that changes over the next half of the season, but I think that's been the best part. There's no, like, it's hard to write a critical story about this team right now. It's hard. Like, I don't want to only do fluff pieces. That's not what we're about with the beat writers, but like, it's been pretty fun to be able to do a lot of that and sort of talk about what's worked with this club so far.
And the Archers are like one of those teams that Deej and I have talked about the past couple of years, where it's like, it always seems like they have the pieces in place. Like, they have, like, there's no true improvements that they could have made outside of, the face-off stripe, which they did this year in the draft, that, like, we felt over the past couple of years, the Archers could have been the runaway favorites to win the championship, and then they just fall short, whether it's in the playoffs or they lose a key regular season game to knock them down in the standings one way or another that gives them a less favorable matchup in the playoffs, or 2021 they run into the biggest bulletin board material team in our guys of Chaos, and Chaos just go on their historic run and upset the Whipsnakes in the end. But this Archers team this year, it feels like the energy and the vibe around them is so much different than years past. And it just feels like these guys are just having so much more fun, I think, as a collective unit, from the guys that have been on this team that you've been able to talk to, whether it is Ryan Ambler, Tom Schreiber, Grant. Like, does it feel that way when you talk to them? Like, they're just having more fun and able to play a lot more loose than they have in the past?
Yeah, I think that they've embraced in this locker room, and this isn't necessarily new, but maybe with some new life, they've been able to fold these young guys in really well. And I think that's because they're a locker room that wants to have fun. I mean, like, there's some pranks that have gone on in training camp and whatnot to, like, nothing, I don't know much. And what I do know, I've been sworn to secrecy. So like, but there's just been some really fun stuff, like sort of like in the NBA, like, filling a guy's car with popcorn, like things like that I think they've embraced, and that's helped them. And that's helped them sort of build this camaraderie where there aren't egos on this team. And like, everyone says that, and it can be true for all 8 teams. But this team, I think, has just meshed really well together. And then, I mean, there's definitely still question marks. Can they do it in the playoffs? Can they get past Chaos? Like, those are legit questions that will have to be answered if they're going to win a championship. But from a sort of like locker room perspective, I don't think that this team could be in a better spot with these leaders, especially with guys like Tom Schreiber, Graham Hossack, Ryan Ambler, Matt McMahon, guys that are willing to be serious, be leaders, work hard, set an example, but also rib on guys and bring people into the fold that way. And that's worked well for them so far, and I think it'll only prove to be beneficial as the season progresses.
And I mean, on the other side of that coin too, whenever you talk to Coach Bates, it feels like whenever we get to talk to him after games this year, like, he just has like a renewed sense of like life right now, with this team. And like, he just feels like something gave him a shot in the arm, and this new look team revitalized like his joy for coaching this team, where I feel like as a coach, and Deej, you can attest to this being a coach yourself, like, when things don't go your way year in and year out, when you feel like you're right there, that can be frustrating. That can be, a demoralizing factor for you as a coach and as a coaching staff. It feels like Coach Bates is having just as much, if not more fun, coaching this iteration of the Archers. And that's no, diss to Archers teams in the past, but it does feel like Coach Bates is a lot more free himself this year too.
I think he's one of the best GMs in the league. And I think that it's hard. Like, it's a hard dual role to fill for a lot of coaches, and it's something that no one has experience with, truly. But I think Coach Bates has done so well in free agency, in the draft, et cetera, that he set himself up for success as a head coach. And he's sort of meshed these two roles really well, where he's found guys that he wants to coach, and he both personally, but also on the field. He's found guys that said, okay, I can take their strengths and I can magnify them and I can lessen their weaknesses, because this is a guy that can fit into our offense well. I mean, just to see what he did in free agency, and I think also the willingness to rebuild is impressive, because no one can say a bad word about Marcus Holman, Will Manny, Scott Ratliff, Dominique Alexander, Adam Gittleman. These are pros. These are legends in the game. But the willingness to say, hey, this hasn't worked for 4 years, we need to switch it up, and to respect those guys. Because, like, absolutely, like, there's no disrespect there. There's no lack of love for what those guys have done in Archer's uniforms. But to be willing, and obviously 2 of those guys retired, so like that's but being willing to move forward and be aggressive in free agency, be aggressive in the draft. Like, I think probably the Sisselberger pick and the Connor Marr pick at 13 were like, those were disputed picks after draft night. I think legitimately, like, I had question marks. I think other people had question marks. Like, would these selections pay off? And so far they have, in different ways. But I think that, you know, he's stuck to his guns, and he's done a really good job building a team that he wants to coach, and that their staff can be successful with. And so I think that that's been the biggest thing that I've been impressed with, is sort of the work that's gone into building this team in the offseason. And, like, obviously it has to work on the field. You have to execute. Players have to execute. There's so much that goes into it. But I think that Bates, like, if the Archers end up winning the championship in September, I think that we're going to look back at this offseason rebuild and say that, like, you know, Chris Bates deserves whatever executive of the year award that we could give him, because he's built this team so well.
I didn't even think of that, because now coaches are GMs and coaches. We've never had an executive of the year winner in the league.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, like, maybe you just fold that into coach of the year, and probably if the Archers win it, like, but that would be a curious thing. And I have no idea if, you know, they're going to split that role eventually. But I do think that Chris Bates has really thrived in that position. And that probably comes from, not that, I mean, most of these guys have been college coaches, but also being a college coach in the modern world and needing to recruit and sort of the way that things have gone. I think Bates has utilized a lot of the skills that he already had to sort of, to build a team that he wants to coach.
Deej, what you got about the Bows?
I was gonna say, it looks like he's just about done. He's very much a vibes kind of guy. I'm more X's and O's, and that's how we balance this thing out. So let's get into the fun part of being a beat writer. What offseason move do you believe was the biggest help in terms of, was it getting Sisselberger at the stripe? Was it, loading up on the 2 short stick D mids, or was it going out and getting Mac O'Keefe to supplement the attack?
Yeah, I think it's Sisselberger. I do, because you look at the efficiency numbers, like, the Archers aren't, like, they're top half of the league in offensive efficiency. They're second in settled offensive efficiency. Defensively, I think they're like second or third, very close to Chaos and Water Dogs. But they're not, like, blowing everyone away first in sort of like in defensive and offensive efficiency. And I think that Sisselberger, and, like, this is a boring answer, but it's Sisselberger, and then it's also, it's O'Keefe. Like, I'm going to sound, I can't not say good things about this team right now. Maybe there will be a time where that sort of changes, but the way that they got Sisselberger, and then they've utilized how they've exploited how dominant he's been, has been the biggest thing. If you got Mike Sisselberger and he was winning 70% and they were scoring on 15% of their 32-second offensive possessions, or the PLL didn't include a 32-second shot clock, they left it at 52, the value might not be as much. And I, like, this is one thing that I was genuinely curious about, because I don't know if Chris Bates knew that the shot clock was going to 32 when he picked Mike Sisselberger 5th overall, because that changes the value of this position. But for the Archers, it hasn't. Like, they've been more efficient in 32-second offense than they have 52-second offense through 5 weeks. And that's really impressive. And so I think that because of that, it's Sisselberger. If that wasn't the case, I would be more inclined to say it's Mac O'Keefe, it's Piper Bond, one of those guys. But I think that they've been able to sort of capitalize on just how good Sisselberger has been. And because of that, and because of the fact that he's been elite, that's got to be the most impactful move for them.
I think this guy's pandering to me a little bit. He might know I'm a special teams guy. We talked about one in Sisselberger. The other guy that I consider to be special teams, Brett Dobson. Can you talk about kind of how the teams talked about him, how coach has, and what a move it's been for him to step in? I think it's been very skipped over and not talked about a bunch, but he's kind of reaching a very elite category in terms of guys who are playing very good goaltending in both the professional outdoor league and in NLL. We've seen this a couple of times throughout the history of lacrosse, but I mean, he's pretty much edging into Dylan Ward category as he's been standing on his head for the Archers all summer.
Yeah, I mean, he's been legit. And just for stats, I mean, he's second in the league in save percentage, I believe behind Blaze, and then he's second in saves. I don't think Blaze is number one. I'm forgetting exactly because Blaze sat out 1 or 2 games. But yeah, I think what's impressed me most about Dobson, not having watched a lot of him play before this year, is just how good he is with his body and the way that he's able to move. It's not always a clean save, and obviously there's value in a clean save, but the way that he's just able to sort of quite simply get his body in front of the ball and sweep to the point where he's getting as much in front of where he thinks the ball is going as possible. Like, there aren't a lot of goalies that can move like he can move. And obviously it's a league that is stacked with goalie talent. Like, there's probably not enough spots for goalies. But like, there hasn't been a game where you're like, oh man, Dobson's not making the saves. Like he's missed a couple. Like, I don't think I've ever been like, Dobson could have that one. You know what I mean? Like it hasn't even come up into my sort of frame of thinking. And so I think he's been flawless. Like, he's come in he hasn't skipped a beat. Like, I know he started one game last year with Gittleman out in Denver or wherever it was, but like, it just hasn't even been like a question, and that's crazy. Like, I think it was a question. It was like, after Washuta had a good champ series, would it be a battle? And nothing against Nick Washuta, he's a perfectly capable backup, but I mean, Brett Dobson has established himself, I think, as a top 5 goalie in the world, quite clearly, maybe even top 3, with how good he is in both leagues. And he's good in transition. Like, there's just not a lot of flaws, and he's loud, and the guys love him. I mean, like, Dauber, he's a character. And, I did a story on sort of like how fun-loving the Archers are and sort of like their locker room. And I asked, I think, 5 or 6 guys, like, who's the funniest guy on the team, just to get some interesting quotes. And Dauber, he was included in just about everyone's list. Graham Hosek, who is typically a very quiet dude. I mean, I love him. He's great. But he was even like, yeah, Dauber says some pretty absurd stuff. And in a good way, like, not, fun-loving nature. And so I think that Dauber's he's been outstanding. And it's exciting for this team to sort of have building blocks in those places. I mean, you have an Amens, you have a Sisselberg, you have Dobson right down the line. And obviously, they have some older defensive guys, but you even have a Jared Connors. You have 3 young shorties who are only going to get better. And so, like, the future of this team is bright, and the guys, even if you have, like, Tom Schreiber's going to retire at some point, that could be like 6 years from now, who really know what he's doing. But even if Schreiber does, they're set up really well. And I think that that's also impressive with how Bates has rebuilt this, because he's, it's a 5th year of the league. It's hard to think long term, but Bates has, and Brett Dobson's been just a major part of that, and the faith in him. The trust in him to say, yeah, like, Adam Gittleman has been great for us, but we got this guy that we trust. We spent a draft pick on him. Has been impressive, and it's paid off.
I mean,
drawing.
Oh no, I was gonna just top on Brett Dobson there too, and like, it's rare. I mean, we saw Blaze do it, but do you think it's out of the question to put Brett Dobson, as long as his second half continues the way his first half has, to at least be in the MVP conversation? I'm not saying he'll win it, but I think if he has a similar or, continues to progress better second half that he did in the first half, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that his name is listed as a candidate when the regular season comes to an end.
DJ, I'll let you go first.
Maybe. I think it to me it's just so hard because we know how much of a highlight driven sport lacrosse is and how much like scoring is valued over everything else. And I mean, you look at Ryder, you look at Jeff Teat, you look at Tom Schreiber, Dane Smith, like, these guys are putting up, even Tucker Dordovic, these guys are like putting up serious scoring numbers every week. Like, as much as I would love to see Brett on the list and like to be the MVP as a defensive guy, like I love when somebody other than an attackman wins it, but like it's like the Tewaaraton, like it's basically an attackman driven award. So like, is it a possibility? Yeah, but like I think it's a lower possibility just due to how well the offensives have played this year.
Plus, I'll just throw this out there. Brett Dobson right now is the only goalie in the league that has a below 10 saves scores against average. He's at 9.8. Every other goalie's 10 or more. That's pretty impressive.
It's legit. I think that the way that he wins it is if the Archers go 9-1, 8-2, they go win a championship. And the thing about the Archers right now is like I was sort of having this thought. I was like, okay, like who's the guy? And yeah, it's Schreiber. But like statistically, it's been very spread out for them offensively. And like Hasek's been great. Warren Jeffrey, like underratedly really impressive for them this season. But the way Dobson probably wins it is as sort of like, okay, this guy was insane statistically and the Archers won it all. And you got it. Like, who knows, like, how much that really goes into it. But I think that that's the way that he gets onto the sort of the finalists list. I agree with DJ that I think it's unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, I would love to see it, but drawing another comparison to last year's champion, I don't think we're getting a lot of talk about or enough talk about Trey Leclerc and kind of the role he's played for the Archers and going both ways, being on the wing, scoring offensively, helping clear the ball. He's kind of turned into a bigger present day version of Zach Carey, who's obviously still around playing on the Water Dogs, but kind of just talk to what he means to the team and kind of the sprout he's had in, what is this, his second year, I believe. And maybe third, but just, his sprout in between the last couple of years and kind of taking that jump.
Yeah, I mean, he's producing offensively. And then I think that that's been sort of the biggest thing is that coming into this year, it was sort of there were roster question marks, but I think offensively it was pretty set in stone. You had like 6 or 7 guys where like, all right, like these guys are going to be core pieces. I think Trey was still a little bit on the outside, like the favorite for sort of like, that maybe 7th or 8th offensive spot, like, because he can do different things. And like, okay, like you want to have guys who can, run both ways. But like the way that I think he has 10 points right now. It's been real, and he's done it in different ways. Like the way that he's sweeping across the top and scoring goals when teams aren't sliding off of, maybe bigger names. I mean, he's been huge, and you need that guy. Like you need those guys alongside Schreiber, and he's also allowed them to play with Matt Moore and attack some, which is I think something to track as they sort of as they go further down this season. It's going to be curious. I don't know if Matt Moore is playing this weekend, but if he is, like obviously they started him at attack against the Redwoods, and I don't think that was a matter of limiting Grant Neumann. I think that they genuinely are impressed with what Moore is doing at attack. But I think that Trey, alongside Ryan Ambler and obviously Challen Rogers, they provide someone for Tom Schreiber to play off of. And maybe even more importantly, just Trey specifically, he provides offense. He can initiate offense, go get a goal without Schreiber needing to touch the ball. And that's valuable in this league, and getting guys who can give your stars a break. And not only that, like, he's not just a backup. I mean, he's doing serious things, and the way that I think that they can use him more in the faceoff lanes, especially. I think that that's somewhere where they probably should even try to get better on 32-second offense. And especially like against the Water Dogs this weekend. Like, I'd love to see Trey taking, I mean, he's probably going to run out of energy at some point, but I'd like to see him take, a third of those wing draws on the wing. And so, yeah, I mean, Trey's been huge. And I think that he's just an example of the way that each guy has elevated their game this season for the Archers. And that's why they've been successful so far.
One of the other big free agent splashes, too, was Challen Rogers, who you brought up. And, it's kind of been a slow, assimilation into this Archers offense for him. He's got 3 points on the year, or 3 games, 2 points. Kind of still trying to find his groove with this team. What do you think has been kind of the, I don't want to say issue, but for lack of a better term, like issue with Challen kind of finding his way offensively, because he's known as one of those guys like a Zach Curry, who's one of those all-around midfielders, gets up and down the field, does it all. What do you think Challen needs to do to kind of get going in this offense that it seems like at any given time somebody can get going?
Yeah, I think with Challen it's a matter of probably getting going with Tom a little bit more in that 2-man game up top. I think that that's probably a point of emphasis for them, especially if Matt Moore does make a more permanent move down to attack, or at least splits time down there. They're going to need more guys to run sort of there. I mean, I did a film breakdown, but they love this little sort of pick game up top with Schreiber and Amity, and then having sort of a double mumbo coming from GLE. And so obviously Ryan Ambler can do that well. Trey Leclerc can do that well. But obviously, I mean, the chemistry that Challen and Tom have, I think could probably be utilized more just from sort of a coaching perspective to get Challen more comfortable. And then, I think probably there have been some plays where it's like, okay, like, he's got to be a little bit more aware of the slide that's coming, or the help that's coming, and be a little bit more willing to sort of like dish that ball once the defense has eyes on him. Not to criticize him to any, meaningful degree. There's things that he provides this team just as an off-ball picker, especially, that aren't going to show up in the stat sheet. And I think that that's one thing that's actually flashed in that sort of mumbo set that they like to run in pairs, that he's done well creating space for other guys. Like, I think Trey had a goal specifically off of a Challen Rogers pick. I think it was Chaos, or maybe it was Matt Moore, but in week 3 in Challen's first game. So it's probably just getting more comfortable playing with this team, and maybe them using him a little bit more to his strengths, rather than trying to fit him in as sort of a more sort of traditional midfielder, because his strength is obviously the indoor game, the picking game, and using his physicality that way.
Now that we're getting into the second half of the season, this might be the toughest question either one of us ask you. Is the team doing anything or setting up anything to combat their normal late season fizzle out? The defense normally gets really tired and they start to let up a lot of goals, and the offense feels the pressure of trying to outscore these teams, and it normally caves right about week 8, week 9, and then it kind of flows into the playoffs. So are they even thinking about that? Is that something that they're trying to be aware of, or is they kind of just riding the vibes of the season right now?
I think right now, and listen, I haven't asked this question, so they very well could be, and I'm just, I don't know right now. I think right now they are shifting focus to that back half and what they can improve on. It's been obviously sort of a wonky first 5 weeks of play with the breaks that have come. But from what I've heard from Chris Bates, they've been reflective, and that's what I've been impressed by. Their transition offense has been not good. They've only scored on 20% of their transition possessions, relative to, I think the Cannons are up above 40%. There's room for improvement there. But I think that, transition wise, they're looking to run less, actually, especially with this lefty break that they have that can be a little bit awkward for these sort of strong righties that they have in Latrell, Mike Sisselberger, guys that really aren't going to sort of carry down lefty or be able to make that super advanced, change your hips, flip your hips, and throw back to the right. But from what I can tell, this All-Star break has been useful for the staff. I don't have tons of details on specifically what they're looking to do, but I do think that the way I think that they're more built for postseason success with this team than with past teams. Obviously, Sisselberger is probably the biggest part of that, but I also think offensively, they've been more individually. They've been better at winning individual matchups, or at least focusing on them this year. And I think that sometimes ball movement is great, and focusing on that is obviously critical. But they haven't been at the top of the league in passes or assists so far this year. And I think that maybe you say, oh, maybe they don't want the ball to die in people's sticks, and that you want to probably get some more passes in. But at the same time, when you have a Connor Fields, when you have a Matt Moore, these guys that can go at individual matchups and dodge for 5 to 10 seconds and then score, that's a playoff offense. Like, that's what you need to be able to do come playoff time. You need to be able to beat matchups. And when Chaos decide to short someone that they don't think can win a matchup, you have to go win that matchup. And so I think that maybe that's not maybe that has been an explicit sort of goal for them this regular season. I don't know if it has, but I do think that maybe even without trying, they are built better offensively to be able to do that. I think that they have depth defensively, and I think that that's important. I think that it's possible that someone like Patrick Shume, I don't exactly know how to say it, but Cam Wires get an opportunity at close at some point here down the line, maybe for a game, maybe for a stint, just to get them runs and maybe give some guys a break. But at the same time, there have been, for certain guys that didn't play, obviously in Worlds, there's been some chances to get a breather. But I think that there's an opportunity for some young guys to get some minutes, to get some game time. And maybe to let some of the vets sit a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think Sisselberger's huge. His 32-second offense is huge. Being able to win matchups offensively will be meaningful come playoff time. And then I do think that they're set up. I don't know if I should say better defensively, but I think that they're set up well with this current roster. Obviously, you're uncertain who can stop Michael Sowers. Maybe it's Graham Hossack, maybe he can, but do you have that type of defender? Do you have someone that can go up against a Matt Rambo because they don't have any righties? Again, probably Hossack, but there's still question marks. They definitely are. But I think that this team and this club, I think that Bates has been smart, and I think that he's already looking ahead to some degree.
How much, it is fascinating to me that the Archers are the only team right now that's above 500 that played in the championship series in February.
Yeah.
How much do you think, from just talking to the guys that are still on the roster from February, that has played into kind of just the early foundation of this year's team's chemistry?
Yeah, I think one thing, and this is true for lots of teams in the league, but I think that the one thing that they've benefited from is there's a lot of connections on this team before they became Archers. Obviously you have sort of the mainstays, the guys who've been on the Archers for a while. You have the Princeton connection with Ambler, Schreiber, Bates, but also among the young guys, you have Jared Connors and Matt Moore, and obviously they're not, connecting on the field a ton, but you have, Mac O'Keefe and Grant Amen. Obviously they haven't been huge so far just because of injuries. But I think that there's some built-in chemistry already there that they've been able to sort of thrive with. And, but yeah, relative to Champ Series, I think Champ Series gave some different guys opportunities to shine in different ways. And I think that, down the line, if injuries do occur, you're more confident with Ryan Ogevin now, and he had that sweet goal. I think it was at the end of the Whip Snakes game, where he sort of re-dodged 3 times and then stuck, low to high shot. And so I think that if anything, it's going to allow them to have more comfortable depth. Say Brett Dobson goes down for a game, say, I don't know, something happens in game, you're comfortable with Nick Washuta. You're comfortable with some of these different guys stepping in. Locker room wise, I think that this group is steady, whether they played in Champ Series or not. And I think that it probably gave them opportunities to grow further and to sort of say, okay, I think, Manny and Holman played in Champ Series, or I know Holman did. I'm blanking. Yeah. But, more time together is always great. And I know that that's something that Ryan Ambler especially has said, like, this is just, it's fun, and it makes their lives easier come the season, because it's not just a 9-month break.
I think the only thing that's going to keep Dobson out of a game for any amount of time is if his sweatpants rip.
You think he doesn't have a backup pair on the sideline, man? He'll just run out and run back in.
Or underneath. He's probably got double pairs on.
No way.
He learned from Dylan.
He had him on in Louisville, man. I was watching I was like, dude, it's hot there.
Dylan Ward had him on in Dallas last year. I can't wait to see Dobson wearing them in Dallas.
I mean, they were inside.
True, but it's still hot down there.
I mean, my summer goalie wore them all summer.
Built different.
It's part of the position. Like, do you want to be comfortable, or do you want to make a few extra saves? Like, you got to pick the
comfortable.
Here's the thing: if you're a goalie, you're already committing to not being comfortable. Like, you're getting some, like, I would not wear them. Like, personally, I would not want to wear sweats in that weather, but I also wouldn't want to step in that cage with Jared Neumann stepping down on me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
I mean, the cup,
it's a different breed of man.
Is not, I mean, most cups are uncomfortable, but then, like, you wear the gladiator cup that they wear, and you're like, dude, how do you move in this thing? And they, like, run full speed. Like, it's so uncomfortable as a position. But, like, most praised. They get everything from me. I'll jump in front of a ball to save my goalie, but I'm not getting in there either.
No shot. We're all not Tom Schreiber either, who will just jump in the goal on a whim and make a save and get a save in your statistical categories.
It sucks that you can't do that outside of the pros.
Yeah.
It's a penalty in every other level.
Is it in college too?
Yeah, I'll take a penalty. I'll take a penalty over a goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll take that every time. But it's like the safety thing, because, like, you don't have the neck guard or the actual goalie chest protector. It's like, I get it, but, like, who cares?
I do have a fun question for you, Zach. Since you the beat writers are new this year, how relieving for you as the Archers beat writer is it that you came in this year and not in 2021, where every other story that you would have been either writing or tweeting about was comparing Ian McKay and Connor Fields? Now, it's okay, because both of those guys are our boys, and we were one of the first people to say that it wasn't really the Connor Fields trade, because Ian McKay is talented in and of his own right.
Yeah.
But how relieving for you as a writer is it that you don't have to write about that at all?
It's nice. It's nice that there's a diversity of storylines. That's a big thing. I mean, the Archers have there's a nice diversity of storylines, as I said, to be able to focus on. And one thing I try to stay away from is the Mac O'Keefe, Grant Ament storyline too much, because I think everyone gets that. But yeah, you have to be smart with the stories you focus
on. Going into Dallas, what are your expectations now coming out of All-Star break for the Archers? You know, it is kind of that second half of the season now. Outside of Baltimore, everything is West Coast pretty much. What's the expectation from the guys since you've talked to them going into this second half, and your own personal expectations for how you've seen them play this year?
They're obviously water dogs, or as everyone is, but especially water dogs this season. I think the guys are respectful of defending champ 4-1 team that has had success in unique ways, in ways that is going to challenge this Archers team. And I think that they're excited. From what I've heard, they're excited for that challenge and to sort of face something different, especially at face-off. And it's going to be, it's great that this game's on ABC. That's absolutely awesome. I'm pumped for that. And I'm pumped for people to be able to see this battle of face-off strategies. I think that Mike Sisselberger, this is the biggest, and he's played TD and he's played Connor Farrell. I think this is the biggest test for him yet. My question mark for him on the field coming into the league was how he would do when pressured, and how he would do, when the teams decided to play defensively against him and try to use wings to force turnovers. He's been very, very solid, other than a couple times against Chaos. excuse me. He's been very good, and I'm curious to see if that holds up this weekend and how Water Dogs are holding teams to only 13% efficiency on 32-second possessions defensively. The Archers are scoring on 32% of their offensive 32-second possessions. And so one of those isn't going to hold. Maybe it's an average of those two numbers, but that's what I'm watching going into this weekend. I think that's where a lot of the strategic focus is for the staffs and for the players. And so I'm curious to see how that works out. If Matt Moore's healthy, it's going to be interesting to see that sort of dynamic at attack if they use him down there, especially with how good he's been in 32-second offense, if they decide to bring Neumann out of the box. And then I'd love to see a Michael Sowers, Graham Hossack back and forth. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I'm expecting – I do think that there's a dip coming at some point for this team, and I think that that's just sort of natural. Like, that's just pro sports. Like, everyone is good. And it'll be interesting to see when – assuming that comes at some point, it'll be interesting to see when and why. I think that the Water Dogs are uniquely positioned with how successful they've been defensively because the Archers have really relied on that 32-second offense to be successful because they haven't been great in true transition. They haven't been really good in 52-second offense. And so it's going to be interesting to see if the Water Dogs are that team to exploit that weakness. And then, obviously chaos are still the Achilles heel for the Archers, but is this something that teams will be doing more against the Archers to take away what's been their biggest strength through the first half of the season? That's really what I'm watching.
Just speaking on that last point, I don't think the face-off will be too much of a worry this weekend. What I think the Archers do a very good job of that some other teams aren't doing in the face-off that is also helping their 32-second offense off of the face-off is they bring at least one attackman up to help. Like, once he has possession, there's an attackman that moves and makes himself available. We see that especially with Connor Farrell and the Chrome. They kind of leave him out on an island to just handle and get it down to them. And it's like, how good is his handle really going to be? Not that Sis can't handle, but it's so much easier for him to make two, quick steps and get off a pass to a guy that's 7 to 5 yards away rather than having to run 8 yards and then try and make that pass. So I don't think they'll have too much of a problem there, which also might make that number better for the 32-second offense is because they're going so well off the face-off.
It's also a matter of winning it forward versus back. And that's against Gobrecht. Like, I think that's the biggest question mark, because if they can win it forward and then you can fly that, especially that righty attackman, if you can get Sis probably winning it forward to his left, right, and clamping it that way, and then you get that righty attackman just sprinting towards him. That's something that they've done well at times. At times, Hesburger's thrown like a bit of a hospital pass that way. And so I'd be curious to see, first of all, if the Water Dogs are expecting that, which I assume they will be, but also if the Archers can execute that. I also think who they use on the wings will be interesting, because there's been a lot of times where the Archers have used two defensive guys on faceoffs, even when it's a foregone conclusion that Sis is going to win the ball. So I feel like they should start using Amblers, Shrivers, Moores if he's not playing attack, guys like that, along with a pole to get in there, because those guys can take part in a 3-on-3 ground ball and be just as good as anybody. And I think it would just be useful for substitution patterns, especially because the Water Dogs are typically conceding the clamp and at times the win of the faceoff to try to, obviously delay that offensive possession. So hopefully, from an Archers perspective, they will be able to do that. And they'll be able to do, as you said, DJ, to get the ball to attack quickly.
What scares me is them possibly going away from Gobrecht and using a double pole strategy on the wings to lock those guys off, and then putting Zach Currier at the stripe and then just going, you're going to lose it, but just turn him over. And it's like he doesn't have a lot of outlets now because the two poles are locking off on the wings. Right. And then he's left to try and find space. So there's kind of some games there, I agree, but that's probably going to be the most exciting thing is that. And then my boy DeLuca's back. So, I can't wait to rave about that tomorrow on the show. But obviously watching the goalie battle between Dobson and DeLuca, who are both young and stepping into the game.
Yeah, I was looking for. I mean, nothing against DeLuca. I was curious about the Canadian goalie battle. Like, who's
sweatpants on sweatpants.
Yeah. But it'll still be fun to see DeLuca out there.
Zach, as the Archers beat writer, obviously next year home cities get implemented. The final round of home cities were announced during the All-Star Game. Where do you want to see the Archers?
I want to see them in Philly. Straightforward. Like, I'm a Philly guy.
People forget how many connections to Philadelphia.
That's the thing. It's a big.
Have.
Everyone's like, "Oh, Philly," and I'm saying this not knowing. I'm not in those meetings, so
right.
Don't take this as anything.
Exactly.
Like, that's not me.
Neither are we. Everybody, we have no idea.
Yeah, no. So this is not like But believe me, I'm on PLLvote.com, man. Like, I've been spamming. I have a lot of email accounts, and so. But yeah, I want to see him.
Carey 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping Philly. I do think it's underrated how many connections there are to the Philly area. Obviously, Water Dogs has been, I think, probably the one most connected to Philly just from fans. But I think the Archers, I mean, you got Ament, you got Bates, who's still in the area. You got plenty of guys.
Ryan Ambler.
I think Matt Moore is from Philly. Yeah.
Ryan
I think Ambler's in
Philly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ambler, I mean, he's like from 10 minutes away from me. So, yeah. I mean, I think some of these guys are elsewhere now.
Matt McMahon went to Penn.
Matt McMahon. I mean, obviously, Max, a Penn State guy. I don't exactly remember where Max actually from, but
New York.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously, Grant.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping for. I think that they'll probably
Coach Resch, Philly guy.
Absolutely. That's a miss on my part. Yeah, it was funny when I met Coach Resch. He was like talking to me about Ambler, Pennsylvania, like my favorite spots there. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. I'm hoping for Philly. I feel like they'll be East Coast again. No knowledge or information from me. This is not. Nobody quote me here, please. Yeah, I'm hoping they're nearby. That'd be fun for me. And but obviously anywhere would be great, and I think it's going to be a really fun thing to watch over the next couple of months.
Couple other connections: Piper Bond, Penn.
Yep.
Even though he hasn't suited up for them yet, Reed Bowering, Drexel guy.
Yep.
Yeah, that connection. There's a lot, and I think everybody Tissenberger, Lehigh.
True. Yeah, he's right, hour away. Yeah.
I just think the over and this is no diss because we love the boy, but everybody's just like, oh, Michael Sowers, Philly. Water Dogs won the most recent championship in Philly, so they just make that instant connection there.
Well, I feel like Copeland go back to Fairfield. I feel like that's more likely just from if you want to keep those sort of connections there. I don't know. Michael Sowers, he played up at Upper Dublin High School, which is the rival of my high school. I'm much younger than him, but there's some. I've also worked it, but there's a lot. I'm like, no, don't bring Sowers back to Philly. I don't need him getting all that love.
Well, last year at the championship game, they had a whole section that was just the Michael Sowers section. We were just like, that's the dog pound right there.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like when people ask me around the area, like, "Oh, what are you doing this summer?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm working for the PLL." And they're like, "Oh, Michael Sowers," and I'm like, "Yep, Michael Sowers." Michael Sowers.
You should just start being like, "Who?"
Yeah.
You're like, who? He plays lacrosse? No, I don't know him. In the PLL? No. What teams he
Team
play
USA? For? What?
No, I don't know that guy. Wrong guy. Give me another name. Michael Earhart? Yeah, I know him.
You just start naming every other Michael in the PLL.
Mikey Schlosser.
Michael Rabel? Did you mean the president? Mike Rabel? Him? Yeah, I know him.
That's incredible. Zach, this has been a blast. Let everybody know where they can follow you and check out all your stuff you're doing for the PLL and covering the Archers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, PremierLacrosseLeague.com. If you want to look at specifically Archer stuff, you can, go to the Archers team page just on the drop down from teams. But check out all the beat writers' work there. I'm on Twitter at Zach_Carey_ if you want to see my tweets about the Archers in game and not miss an article. Obviously, Discord is another big one. You guys want to, if anybody wants to jump on the PLL Discord, that's a big place where I know I am, especially in the Archers channel. If you want to shoot me stories, ideas, I'm always welcome. Those are always welcome. So yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Yeah, man. It was a blast, and we'll see how the Archers fare in a battle for first place on ABC in Dallas.
Yes, sir.
To the boy Zach Carey for hopping on the show this week. Won't be the last time he's on either. But yeah, I think the other games kind of are self-explanatory this weekend between the Dogs and the Archers, between Cannons and Redwoods, and then Whips Chaos is just a fun way to close out the weekend. This is the first time all year that the Whips will have their what they expected to be offense lined up together with Rambo, Zed, Will Manny, and Brad Smith. So that'll be intriguing to see how those guys play together. And then Chaos just being on the roll that they're on and looking to just continue the success that they've had so far through the first half of the season. But Deej, I think that brings us to the pick pond.
Let's do them Duckies, baby. Beat them.
And
beat them.
We're going to feed the Ducks. And it's the PLL Dallas Picks of the Week powered by Trophy Smack. Guys, there's no better way to upgrade your fantasy smack talk than with our friends over at Trophy Smack with their incredible trophies, belts, metal wall art, rings, you name it. We're planning. I'm planning something with Trophy Smack that I can't wait to share with the people. But you guys can upgrade your fantasy smack talk by going to trophysmack.com/underground and upgrade your fantasy smack talk today. That's trophysmack.com/underground to upgrade your fantasy smack talk. Deej, kicking things off. It's Atlas, it's Chrome in a battle for postseason destiny. Who you got this week? Do you got the men or do you got the Bulls?
This one's so hard to pick because I don't really have anything in either one of these teams. But I gotta go Bulls. We've talked about the revolving door in the offense and how it's ever changing kind of on the side of the men, and you just never really know what you're gonna get with their offense. And they're not playing the Whips, who seem to be the only team that can really be trusted to beat in the recent times. So I'll take the Bulls. I think they're running on the Bulls sometime soon, right?
Beats me.
Me too. I have no clue.
I think this is the first time all year we've had differing picks on the first pick. I'm going with the men on ESPN Plus.
Starting the week off great because there's no way they win this game.
I'm going with Chrome. I think the shakeup to the lineup is just going to be one of those things that like motivates them, and they realize, when I was talking to Mike Manley in Fairfield, like he knew something had to change with this team and their demeanor, and I think the All-Star break is going to help that, where they can kind of just like forget the first half happened. It's a new season for them pretty much, where they just have to go in and approach it differently. And I just don't trust Atlas on the back end right now. I don't trust them at all. So I'm going with Chrome to get the dub and control their postseason destiny. Then we move to 8:30 p.m. The Boom Squad, the Woods. What you got for me, Deej?
You really gonna make me pick first? That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Saturdays are for the boy.
Crazy, bro. Oh. Can I pick both teams to have fun? Bro, I like, okay, let me dive into this a little bit. I like the changes the Redwoods made.
Agreed.
All right, so we lose Owen Grant for a while due to injured reserve. Maybe not the rest of this year. We'll see. Pick up Kevin Rogers.
Love that move, by the way. We didn't bring that up.
Yeah.
Love that move.
Immediately put him in the lineup. First off, love his number choice, 28. I had a midfielder in college.
28. Can you do something for me?
Stop it. I had a teammate, I had a midfield teammate in college that wore 28 and was an absolute monster. Shout out Travis Fox. Love that kid.
Oh, it's a fantastic name. You should have led with that.
Like, the dude was just awesome. I love Travis. But outside of giving him a shout out, I love the idea of him coming into this roster. Kevin Rogers is coming into this roster, providing a speed element into the offense, working alongside maybe doing some two-side game up there, big little with Rob. There's a lot of stuff that Kevin Rogers can bring to the game. His shot is also great. Moving Perk down to D mid, getting him into transition, and he's also a big body that isn't a liability down there defensively. Really like that. The Cannons defense is one that tries to push you through the midfield, so maybe this gives the midfield that jump to be like, hey, we need to take over this game. We need to dodge and open up opportunities for our attack so they can get going. But on the flip side, this Cannons team is hot. Cannons team is hot. They're excited. They play because they're having fun. Coach Holman is making all the right changes and putting the right people in the right places, and he's having a great time, and he's just happy to be here. Like, it's hard to pick against the Cannons right now, but I don't know if I subconsciously vowed to myself preseason to do nothing but cheer for the Woods and pick them to pick every game, but I'm sticking with them. I think we get an explosion from this shuffled offense. We're getting Nakai mostly on the offensive side, it looks like, based on the roster. So this new explosion from midfield for the Redwoods, I think will open up some things for RP3, and then of course Ryder is going to be Ryder. So I think we're going to get Cole Kirsten net again out of the Cannons. So I'm or is it Colin? Sorry, Colin. Yes,
Cole's on our side.
Yeah, we're gonna get Colin, and I mean Cole's playing, so we're gonna get the brother matchup there, and Colin's gonna be in net. So I think we have a chance. I'll take the Woods.
I'm also taking the Redwoods for a bit of different reasons. One similar. I like the roster changes. I think it's smart. The evaluation that Nat said after Fairfield that was going to happen during the All-Star break clearly happened. I also, love the Kevin Rogers signing. Fantastic move. Put him in the lineup. I think it's a different element. It eerily reminds me, different kind of circumstance, but it kind of reminds me last year when the Whip signed James Barclay and brought Barclay back into the fold. Now, obviously, Barclay played for the Whips in year one, but kind of a similar type of move where guys out there, you need a guy, bring in that guy. I love the move. I'm a trends guy. You guys know that. We talked about it a little bit. Woods have had success against the Cannons in the Cannons PLL era of their team's history. 2-0. Woods coming off of a blowout under 5-goal performance, which unfortunately has happened now 3 times in their history. This is the 3rd time. The other 2 times, they have won. I like those trends. I like those numbers. This is the first time we're getting Nat versus Brian Holman in the PLL. It's going to be an interesting chess match. I like this matchup too. It's not exactly a rivalry, but it's one of those sit down and enjoy type of games, especially on paper. So we'll see. Hopefully it transpires that way. But I think this Redwoods team is just hungry to bounce back after getting flat out embarrassed in Fairfield, and having to sit with that over the All-Star break too. So I think they're going to come out rejuvenated and ready to roll. No pun intended there, or was it? So give me the Woods in a very competitive and I think down to the wire type of game.
Roll them things.
Moving to ABC. Sunday afternoon, the 4-1 Water Dogs taking on the 4-1 Archers in a game where we were robbed of a sweatpants bowl goes, Dylan Ward, congrats on the sex, my brother.
Facts. Hey,
Dogs and archers.
Whoa.
What were you saying?
Dogs for the chip? ? As Wardo comes back with dad strength. He was arguably already the best goalie in the league.
Dad strength sweatpants? Industrial sweatpants? In dadstrial?
Mans might go crazy.
Dad dog.
Dog dad.
What's it, Bluey? With the intro thing? I don't even
Yeah.
know the names of the characters, but it's like, it's the theme song. Dylan! And Bluey!
Screaming.
I am torn on this game for a number of reasons. One, Water Dogs have been playing extremely well all year long. They're playing with just like confidence and kind of just like going out there like playing like, hey, we are the best team in the league. We're not afraid of anybody, and you need that type of confidence when you're playing in a league like this. The Archers are doing the same exact fucking thing. Brett Dobson's playing like a goalie of the year candidate. We brought it up when Zach was on the show too. You know, not that he would win it, but his name could swirl around if he continues on this trend in the MVP conversation, especially if his goals against average remains below 10. The thing that scares me with the Archers, and I hope he's healthy, is Grant. He is such an X factor in two different aspects, where if he's healthy, great for the Archers. When he's playing, like when he's listed in the lineup and then he goes out, I don't know. It throws something off for a little bit, but then they are able to recover. And then my brain is also going, that sweet, sweet podcast science. We don't know how that works, Steege, with beat writers coming on the show. We don't know if that translates. But my gut and my instinct, even with Matt DeLuca in cage, I'm going with the Dogs.
The state of Delaware, get back on your feet. Blue Hens, stand up and make some noise. DeLuca is back, baby. What?
Is that your audition to be the PA announcer for University of Delaware Lacrosse?
Hey, I mean, if they want to hire
Buddy,
me,
you're moving to Alaska, not Delaware.
listen, we know how much of a DeLuca stan I am. I am here for this. Like you said, congratulations on the sex, Dylan Ward. Thank you. Thank you. I can now be absolutely pumped that DeLuca's getting another
I see what
start.
you did there.
But-
Sex, pumped.
Hey, just getting it in. All right.
Good. Matt DeLuca just makes DJ absolutely horny.
I hate you. But no,
When you saw the roster, you said, "Give me the D, Luca."
I'm just trying to. Anyway, I love DeLuca and I love everything about the Water Dogs, but I can't ignore that this is the best Archers team we have ever seen. And I say that
to this point,
this is the best Archers team we have ever seen. And I say that because even with Grant and Tom Schreiber in and out of this roster due to injuries, their offense has not slowed down one bit. Not one bit. I don't think either one of them has turned it. I don't even think either one of them is even this team's X factor anymore, which is bananas to say. I think it might be Mac O'Keefe. If Mac O'Keefe has a bad game, the Archers are in trouble. But he's got to have a bad game being in an Archers uniform. So we don't know. But then you still have Connor Fields, who's liable to go off for 5 goals on any given day. But then you do still get to fall back on Tom Schreiber and Grant Amet when they're available. You have Connor DeSimone. You have Matt Moore. You have Trey LeClaire. You have Challen Rogers. Like, this Archers team, until someone handily beats them and gives me a reason to find a true flaw in this team, I got to rock with the Archers.
Even
without playing Jared Connors this week and playing Cam Wires as their backup LSM, they're still the most complete team in the PLL right now, only because Wardell's sitting out. Nothing from taking away from DeLuca, which, by the way, I'm picking Archers if you haven't figured that out by now.
You just said
not taking anything from DeLuca, but
I love how you hyped up DeLuca in the entire state of Delaware just to pick the Archers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I was, because everybody needs to know how much I love DeLuca and how I pondered for half an hour before we did the pod on if I was going to put him on my fantasy team this week or not. Not that I think he won't play well, but he's just going against arguably the best offense in the PLL this year. They're going to score goals.
Can we make an on-pod bet right here?
Oh, no. I'm scared.
It's not bad.
Okay.
It goes both ways here. Ready? If the Water Dogs finish in first place this year at the end of the season, you have to get a DeLuca jersey to solidify your fandom. And if Chrome do not finish in last, I will support my 2-time All-Star snub, Jackson Murill, and get his jersey finally.
I'm here for it.
Chrome cannot finish last.
And if both of these things happen, we both get a jersey.
There you go.
I'm here for it. Let's do it.
You have to get the
Lock
DeLuca
it in.
jersey.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
I'm also determined.
I'll get a white one too because there's no white Water Dogs jersey before
this. Or get the black champion one.
Might be honest.
I'm also very determined that during this postseason run, at some point, you and DeLuca have to take a picture together.
Okay.
You're going to be like SpongeBob. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matthew. Can I hold your iPad?
Remember at the bar last year? You're like, there's Matt. And I was like, Matt.
Where?
He's Matt.
As if this episode wasn't long enough already. Final pick of the weekend. Whips Chaos. First time the Whips are rolling their offense out in full force. Chaos playing very well. Deej, even at 1-4, Whips have a 92% chance to make the playoffs.
I mean, when there's 3 teams at 1-4, yeah, they do got a pretty high chance. They got to win one more game, and oh my God, they're in the playoffs. Not surprised. That
number was just astronomically high compared to the other ones. I was like, wait a minute, they got the same record.
They get lucky, bro, because
and Atlas has the game in hand against them.
When the Woods are playing bad, the whole league wants to play good. So the Woods have to play halfway decent to squeeze into the playoffs. These dudes, they play bad. Half the league's playing bad. It's the PLL.
Don't you start that.
Of course not.
Don't you start that.
I'm talking.
Twitter
Mike Paul,
burner account.
Mike Paul, I'm kidding. Okay, I did not mean that whatsoever.
I'm going Chaos though.
No question.
So there it is.
The chances you see me rooting for the Whip Snakes are almost -0.
So there it is. I'm going Chrome, Redwoods, Water Dogs, Chaos. Deej is going Atlas, Redwoods, Archers, Chaos. I think this is the first time we've had 2 differing picks on the year. But those are your PLL Dallas picks of the week, powered by Trophy Smack. Let's get into this NLL pre-free agency frenzy real quick, too. It's brought to you by our pals over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. You guys can go to kenwoodbeer.com, use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood on tap in the Philadelphia and now Pittsburgh areas. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. Paul Day's been working them phones. Mitch Jones re-signed to a 2-year contract. Zach Higgins re-signed through 2025-2026. And a big old trade. Hunter Lemieux is heading to Rochester along with 2 picks in exchange for Holden Catoni and a 6th-round pick. So the Catoni bros in Philly together. Frank Scigliano heading to Saskatchewan in exchange for some draft picks and Kyle Rubish. Just a whole lot of signings, movement, trades. My only ask to the powers that be at the NLL, can we get this a little more like viewable and accessible and like in the brains of everybody? Nobody knows these deadlines. Nobody knows what these moves are. Nobody knows like the details of free agency. Nobody knows anything unless you've been around the NLL for like a decade. Can we make this a little more accessible for the new age of fan, the new age of media? It would make our lives incredibly easy, because I do find it very strange that it's just like this, like you got to travel through a treasure map to figure out any details about free agency or the NLL offseason.
I mean, maybe there's a reason for that we don't know. Possibly. I really don't know. But I'll say if there's a way that they can start to leak rumors, it'll help. That's like, dude, I can't imagine the NBA doesn't profit off of free agency in some way. Just with the way that the news is out there. Like, I think me and you know more about where James Harden wants to go than James Harden wants to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, the news just circulates so much about how many rumors are out there and where he wants to go and what he's saying. And most of it's probably not even true, but it just gets people talking. It has people interested. Like, the extent of NLL free agency, for what I've seen in the last 2 years, has been somebody signing or getting traded, and then everybody responding to that. Nobody responds to any rumors because there are none. That's what creates free agency. That's what makes players think twice about going to a certain place. Like that, the controversy and the chaos that surrounds free agency is what makes free agency what it is, but we don't have any of that due to how secret it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, to have to sift through the transaction wire on the NLL website to see any moves, like, sure, things aren't official until they're made league approved, but like there's not even an NLL app to even like easily navigate this. You have to be like
notify us right away.
Right. And it's just like, can we make it a little more easy to decipher? And like, even looking at some of these things here, like the qualifying offers, nobody knows what the qualifying offer is. Like, as per section 7.1 of the CBA or 7.2 of the CBA, like, that's like you're speaking French to me. Nobody, the rules and everything in the CBA are nowhere to be found at an easy rate on the NLL website. And maybe we're just talking as two ignorant podcasters because we don't know where this information is viewable at. We may just be ignorant to that information. But as fans of the game, as fans of the league, as people who cover the league the way we do, and the way that people come to us, the amount of like DMs and like mentions I get on social media asking questions, obviously more specific to the Wings because everybody knows I'm on the Wings beat, but like I don't know 98% of this information because it's not made privy to anybody unless you've been covering the league for a decade plus. And that is unfortunate to me because that restricts the growth of this portion of the NLL.
I think players kind of have to make a bigger deal out of it then.
And
It
I
would
think
be
they
weird.
do.
Wouldn't it be crazy if we like started seeing players like just like go on Twitter and stuff and be like, "Yo, so where should I sign?" And
What are
just
they,
started
Spencer
letting
Dinwiddie?
and just started letting play like fans just like put an input on like why their city is good and why like their stadium is good, why they want to come there and play, why the other players around who they would be joining would be worth their time. Like, dude, just start doing that, and then maybe the league will pick up that like free agency is a bigger deal than they think. Like that's kind of what it looks like. Is they feel like free agency isn't that big of a deal. Like it doesn't.
I mean,
Draw
that's made
attention.
obvious when you can't be a free agent technically, like a unrestricted free agent until you're 30. Your entire like athletic prime, air quotes, of what is viewed as an athletic prime is gone. You have 2 years maybe left, especially in a sport that's as physical and as, on your feet as the NLL is.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that'll get adjusted at some point. But like, I don't even know how that became a thing. Anyway,
It's crazy. Like
I can't find a logical reason on why they would say you need to spend 6 years with your first team. If not more with your first team.
Like now that we're kind of coming out of
unless you're traded like that. I don't know.
Now that we're kind of coming out of the COVID era of college players, for the most part, like guys are gonna be coming into the NLL draft at 22. You're gonna say 8 years they are on restricted free agency or signing 1-year deals over and over and over again.
Yeah,
like that's tough. That is
and
tough
if you're gonna
to monitor.
Yeah, if you're gonna cite money and like lack of teams and like stuff, then open up free agency, make it more exciting. More people will be involved. You'll get more money. You'll be able to open up more teams. Like it's a give and take here. It's not a we need to see more involvement before we do something like that. Like this will get you more involvement to do something like that. Sometimes you gotta spend money to make money. You gotta take a risk to win it all. Like chances make champions. Like these phrases don't exist for no reason. And it seems like the NLL is playing it safe, quite frankly, with free agency.
Yeah, it does make it and free agency not starting until August is odd.
I kind of get it.
I get it, but then it's also like, oh, hey, training camp's in a month and a half, 2 months.
I mean, yeah, but that's training camp. Like it's not like the season starts then. Like my thing is I like that it starts in August because it gives the executives and the players and everything, that gives them like a month and a half to just chill out, almost 2 months to just relax and do them and expect and I'm thinking of the latest of the late, which is teams playing in the NLL finals. Like it just gives them that time to breathe and enjoy themselves, maybe go on a vacation, start planning their next year, looking at the draft. Like it just gives them time to do all these things instead of, okay, we just won the NLL finals. Now let's start thinking about free agency right now. Like those guys deserve to celebrate and just relax and breathe. So like, that's the only reason I like this space in between the end of the season and the start of free agency. But, and also I don't think a month and a half to 2 months is too long or not enough time for free agents. I think that's plenty of time.
Because at some of the other sports, like Super Bowl is now mid-February, and free agency typically starts mid-March, so there's a month. I look at the NBA, like the finals
but
how
June,
many and then free agency starts July 1st typically.
But none of those guys are getting signed or anything until after the draft anyway. They end up like those executives and stuff for the most part end up taking that break anyway at the end of the season. So like I don't mind the NLL just doing it mandatorily. Like you can't do anything until this date. It's not like mandatory. I don't know. It is now. It literally just rolled off my tongue, dude.
I know. That's why I was like
but like it's not, I don't think it's a killer in terms of like that piece. And it's like my thing is
a word, it's an adverb.
Let's go. My thing is most teams that would act right away, especially in the NLL, have probably been thinking about that move, or maybe even in contact with that player already, as we've seen tampering violations around other leagues as well. They've probably already been in contact with that player so that as soon as free agency pops off, they can do what they have to do. So, like, I think the break is more for the teams that were in the playoffs and just need that time to like actually relax, reset, and get some time to think and all that. The teams who need the help, immediate free agency help, that are going to go look to do something in the first 2 to 3 days, have been thinking about it probably most of the season, if not a better half of the last part of the season. Like, okay, we got to make changes. Free agency is probably the place to do it. Who do we want to go after? Who's going to be a free agent? Like, they've already started having those conversations as a front office. Whereas a Bandits, a Seals, a Mammoth, a Roughnecks, they're not even thinking about those conversations.
Well, it seems like the Seals are.
Well, I mean, sure, but like, how do we
those
know
are the
that
good teams? Like, that's
my
what the
thing
good
is-
teams do. Like,
my thing is
they-
how do we know that conversation didn't happen post playoff loss?
well, I'm just saying, like, that's what the good teams do. Like, the Bandits, like, their roster is pretty much like it's
Set.
gonna be what it is for the next few years. But like the Seals, they are building like this super, super team type thing. That's what Patrick Merrill does. That's what Paul Day does. That's what Keenan does in Saskatchewan. That's what Colorado does. Like, those are what the proactive teams in the league do. We're starting to see that more and more with a lot of the other teams around the league. Like, we saw the Riptide come out and re-sign Jeff Teat and Ron John to, reestablish their core. Shout out to Danny Mack, too. Dan McCray announced his retirement. Absolute legend of the game. He's another one, like John Rannigan, that I wouldn't be shocked if Dan McCray is on a bench on an NLL roster sooner rather than later. But that's what the proactive teams do. You don't really see, outside of signing these young guys like Piatelli and Kurtz and everything, like, you don't see Albany doing that. You don't see Vegas right now kind of establishing their free agency stuff. And sure, they're a little bit different because they're just heading into year 2 as a franchise. Haven't really seen much movement for Panther City outside of today. They put the franchise tag and he accepted it on Callum Crawford. Like, there's teams that are proactive and always thinking, 2 steps ahead. And then there's teams that kind of sit back. And then when you get to the playoffs and you get to, the tail end of the regular season, those teams that were proactive, those teams that are always 1 step ahead, are typically the teams in the NLL that are making it to the playoffs, that are making deep playoff runs. And that's what separates the good from the great.
I agree. My bigger thing is,
and I even think this offseason with Vancouver, like, they've been proactive because now they have a franchise head coach and GM.
yeah. I mean, I like this the space mostly because it gives us just some separation. It allows for the PLL to shine in the summer. PLL doesn't do a lot in the winter, which allows the NLL to shine. Like, we're giving these spaces for not a ton of overlap, not a ton of overstimulation, not a ton of stuff going on. It's just, you get lacrosse, you get it year round. Like, if we really look at how, like, the coverage of lacrosse and everything that we're getting, like, it is so close to year round now. Like, I like the way that they're separating it and I just said separating it right twice. Sectioning
Can you
it.
say separating one more time for me?
Separating. and sectioning it.
It's like
it's
when
just,
Mr. Krabs in the episode where they switched lives. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
So it's just,
And the separating, and the
Yeah.
separating, and the separating.
Everybody's got like a month and a half off except college. We get college in the springtime and that's it. But like, NLL's got a month and a half off basically when you think about like free agency and that gap between the end and the start, and that rolls right into training camp. And then PLL is the same thing. Season ends, don't really hear anything for a while. We now have the 2-week snapshot or whatever with championship series. And that wasn't even 2 weeks. It was just like,
It was like
yeah.
10 days at most because of like the days to roll in for practice before it started.
I mean, I don't even consider that 10 days. I'd say more because, like, I mean, we weren't getting a ton in terms of news and stuff.
It was a week full of games.
Was it a full week?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but still a week, and then we get free agency. But like, you know, everybody's getting a solid break and a chance to like shine.
I just want free agency rumors and the CBA and just like all of the details that should be available, like they are in every other sport, to be more easily accessible for not only us but for fans. The amount of like fans and like, you know, social media capologists and shit that exist in other sports.
But you know, yeah, I agree with you, but I think a lot of that comes from the video games. This is another, we're going to go back to that conversation for a second. This goes back to the video games. I know a lot about NBA free agency and trade clauses and how you can move a team around and cap space and all that from playing 2K and doing the season mode and franchise and moving players around and making trades and signing guys in free agency and drafting guys.
2K was just made to trick kids into learning how to do math.
I mean, sure, but like my thing is I learned
that's all GM mode is to trick kids into a fun way to learn how to do math well.
Well, I wasn't even doing math. I was like totally locked into like the sports side of it. And I was like, I'm going to make the Detroit Pistons the best they've ever been because I know how to be an actual GM. And so like I was actually like just putting together a good team. So it's like that standpoint where like you learn like the inner workings of how that works, of being a GM and signing a player and drafting a player and going through free agency and trading here and moving your roster around so that you guys actually play well and giving this guy more minutes instead of this guy. Like you learned all of that and then you translate it into the real world. So then that's like why the trade machine is out with the NBA. People throw together all kinds of crazy trades, but all the time those trades work in terms of like cap space and everything. But a lot of that comes from playing 2K. You know,
well, the issue we have with the NLL is that because of the CBA, contract numbers are not allowed to be made public.
Well, yeah, I get that, but even without that, you can kind of get a reference. You know what I'm saying? Like
I just need to know like these clauses in the CBA, like 7.1, like section 7.1, like what does that mean? Like that to me and you means absolutely nothing outside of that's how they're offering.
Right, that's what I'm saying is we would get an idea of that in the video game. Like, oh, you can place a franchise tag in this guy. You can put a no trade clause in this guy's contract. You can put a player clause in his contract. You put a team clause in the contract. That is where you learn that aspect, and then you just start to piece it together. Like, it's pretty simple looking at you know the Seals, for example, or the Bandits. If we look at those teams, we can make one of two assumptions, even without knowing a ton about cap space and clauses and all that. Is either A, there's a bunch of people that are taking pay cuts so that team can be as good as it is.
I can tell you that for some of the guys.
You know what I'm saying? Or there is, what was I going to say? Not necessarily pay cuts, but like you can really look through and see there's a lot of guys there's a lot of finessing going on with the numbers. Like some guys are still getting paid a lot, but there's a guy who's getting paid an okay amount, but then they still have a ton of guys who are signed to rookie contracts because they just got there. Like you can just see looking at the two teams, if you know the clause, like, oh, this guy got put on a team clause, which allows them to manipulate his salary year by year and like blah, blah, blah. You can kind of just piece those things together if we had a video game to try and be a GM. I think that's where a lot of the like social media cap kind of guys come from and like all of that and putting together monster teams like on social media, like, oh, let's do this trade with this guy and 4 picks and cash for these two guys. That all comes from playing video games and being able to do it yourself because you kind of just get an idea.
The annoying part with the NLL, it's like trades happen and it's like, how did that money work? Because we know there is a salary cap, but it feels like there's not a salary cap.
Yep.
So Just make things more accessible to us, please, NLL. Please.
Or you can kind of figure out where the salary cap is, right? Like,
right. Can we get what the salary cap is? Because
I mean,
even that info we don't know.
Yeah, but like we can tell that it's got to be quite a few million, right? If we look at like the two teams I brought up, they got
even the Wings,
a lot of big name guys. The Wings have a lot of big name guys, so like the cap space has to be a couple mil.
Look at Buffalo. Look at Toronto. Like
so like you can kind of
how does
Toronto,
how does
right?
the
like
salary cap transfer over to Canadian money and U.S. dollar?
Like Toronto, if they sign another big name, everybody's going to be like,
which they traded for Mark Matthews.
So are they taking
for that contract?
You know what I'm saying? So everybody's looking like, okay, so they're taking pay cuts, or
they signed Challen Rogers a couple years ago to an 8-year contract. Tom Schreiber signed through, I think, the next 2 or 3 years.
And that's probably on a base salary for all those years. You see what I'm saying? Like we can start.
This is our public call out to Commissioner Brett Frood. 1, we would love to have you on the podcast. But 2, come on the podcast and please explain this to these 2 poor, unfortunate souls.
Or just open it up for us to know.
That too. Or just come on the pod and that episode of the podcast be the one-stop source so that we get the downloads and the subscribers.
Yeah, forget what I said. Do that. Do that.
That way DJ doesn't have to move to Alaska where there is no NLL. Well,
I wouldn't even.
Hey,
I'd
devil's
be
advocate.
Close to Vancouver.
I was going to say, you be close to Kurt Malowski.
My guy. What up? Let me pull up for a few games. Let me pull up for a few.
There might be a job opportunity for you to be the Vancouver mascot.
I'd slide. That's probably pretty solid money.
And I saw the Canucks are hiring for an in-arena host. I mean, still subscribe, but DJ might be entertaining moving to British Columbia now.
Hey, just saying. I don't know. It's kind of cold up there.
So there it is. We'll be following along. Next time we talk to you guys, NLL Free Agency will be well underway. It is weird that NLL Free Agency felt way more accessible during the Pandy Wandy because I had a whole blog running that got retweeted by the NLL of just a free agency tracker. And, like, I was able to, like, get more information then than we are now. Make it more accessible, god damn it.
I mean, the only thing sports-wise going on other than people getting traded was the UFC. So, I mean, and then you had all the bubbles pop out. So, like, kind of makes sense. They had to make noise somehow.
I was like, okay. I was, like, breaking news just because I was, like, refreshing the transaction wire.
You were bored. That's what it sounds like.
I was bored in the house. I was in the house bored. Throwback.
Big throwback.
Everyone's going to hate how long this episode is, but we don't care. Subscribe, god damn it. Follow us on the socials at OTB LaxPod, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. Submit your ridiculous goals, all that good stuff to us. DM it to us. We'll post it on Instagram and TikTok. We want to see some of that stuff too, no matter what level of lacrosse you're playing at. Want to see some fun. Did you see that video, that interview of the kid? I forget who posted it, and I apologize. It might have been TLN. They asked who the kid's celebrity crush was.
I don't think so.
Homie said Ski Bree, meaning Sky Bree, the OnlyFans model. Buddy was like 11 at most. He says Ski Bree. That's it. That's it.
What has the world turned into?
It
We're
was the
going
most
so downhill.
ridiculous clip I've ever seen in my life. I was like, what is happening? Kids are too online.
Y'all comment below if I should get a puppet, if we should respond to people's highlights with puppets. I've been thinking about this heavy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I've been thinking about that heavy.
That's hilarious. Yup. Yep. Follow us on the socials, like I mentioned. Follow Deej at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Goes a long way for helping the show continue to grow. We are working on another big guest coming up, too, on top of the beat writers. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the pod feed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so Deej doesn't have to move to Alaska. YouTube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. As of this recording, we're at 518 subscribers. Can we get to 525 before the end of the weekend?
7 more. Hashtag DJ1K. Get me there.
Go subscribe and smash the like button, ring the bell icon, comment down below your thoughts on everything we discussed on the episode. And get your merch, phiapparel.co, code underground for 10% off any and all merch orders. And this has been episode number 285 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, KB, enjoy Dallas week. And then going into next week, when we're back with you, it's Hall of Fame weekend. Getting ready for Homewood Field in Baltimore. But until then, we're getting the heck up out of here, and we are signing off. Peace.